adventure in Formula One is about to blast into action at the Sakir circuit in Bahrain. Round one of the 2022 season assembles a grid of 20 magnificent machines, all designed to new technical regulations which could alter the way a race develops. And it's happening at the track in the Middle East, which has provided us with some great wheel-to-wheel moments in the past. Welcome to our coverage on F1 Live. I'm Ben Edwards. I'm relishing the start of a new chapter in the sport. It's early evening on this 15-turn, 3.3-mile circuit, ready to play host to the season opener for the fourth time in its history. Turn one is a crucial area for overtaking, as Carlos Sainz proved last year in squeezing past Sebastian Vettel. But we'll see how the action is on the very first turn from the start. That could be even more crucial. Turn 4 is also key, but don't run wide, or just like Max Verstappen had to do last year, you'll have to give the place back. That gave Hamilton the victory last time out. Turn 11 is another potential area for overtaking, as Valtteri Bottas proved last year around the outside. Well, let's find out if anybody can do it this time. The larger diameter 18-inch wheels still come with 3 tyre compounds, and we're expecting the Red Bull soft tyre to be key in the early stages and maybe at the end of the race as well. So, let's take a look at the lineup for the Grand Prix. And starting from the back, it's the Williams of Nicholas Latifi with the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll on the back row. Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren of Nico Hülkenberg. Standing in for Sebastian Vettel on row 9. Next up, Yuki Tsunoda of Japan, going up against the driver from China making his debut in F1, Zhou Guanyu. Alex Albon from Thailand and England, split personality with Lando Norris in the McLaren. Mick Schumacher best qualifying to date in 12th, with Esteban Ocon in 11th place. Top 10 sees Pierre Gasly and George Russell back on the 5th row. George with some work to do in the Mercedes. Fernando Alonso starts in 8th place for Alpine, but what a great effort by Kevin Magnussen in the Haas to qualify 7th. Valtteri Bottas, former teammate of Lewis Hamilton, now in an Alfa Romeo, alongside him again. Lewis is 5th. Sergio Perez 4th on the grid. Carlos Sainz 3rd. And then right up at the front, we have Max Verstappen, the reigning world champion, starting 2nd, and pole position has gone to Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Well, Jolyon Palmer is alongside me in the commentary box as we prepare for what should be a very exciting outing. And Jolyon, we're looking at Lewis Hamilton here, the man who just missed out on the World Championship last year, and with some work to do from 5th on the grid.
Highly anticipated the start of this race. So many unknowns. But what we do know is that Lewis Hamilton has work to do in the Mercedes. This is going to be the toughest start to the season he's had for a very long time. And it's all about these guys at the front. Charles Leclerc on pole, Max Verstappen 2nd. They've been the stars of the weekend so far, but there's a couple of wily foxes just behind them. Sergio Perez is always so good on the tyres. Can he make something work later on? And then Mr. Smooth Operator himself, Carlos Sainz, in the 2nd Ferrari. Those two could have a big part to play. Interestingly, the first thing we can see from this new season is that the new tyre rules don't make a huge difference. Everyone's on the soft tyre to start, apart from the 2 McLarens who have gone for the mediums in 13th Lando Norris and 18th Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah, well, they are further down the grid than expected, the 2 McLarens, so they've obviously decided to go for that slightly harder tyre. Nobody starting on the hard compound. We might see it come into action later on, but all of those front runners are on the soft tyre. No great surprises there. Quite a few of them have brand new tyres. You can see how shiny the tyres are on Charles Leclerc's car. It looks to me as though Verstappen might be on a used set of soft tyres, so that's a difference straight away. Ferrari going from pole position on a brand new set of soft tyres. Max Verstappen on a set he would have used in qualifying. He has a new set of tyres available, but he's saving them for the end of the race then, so that pretty much confirms he's going for a 2-stop strategy, because they still have to use 2 different compounds of tyres, so we can't go soft to soft and go to the end. There's going to be a medium in there. So the formation lap is underway here in Bahrain, with Charles Leclerc leading the way from Max Verstappen, who's weaving around to get a bit of tyre temperature. Then the other Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, and then it's Sergio Perez. There's Lewis Hamilton on the outside, just turning in now, with Valtteri Bottas in the red and white Alfa Romeo, and then the Haas, which was the real surprise of qualifying. Kevin Magnussen doing a fantastic job. 2 stops is what we are looking at the moment, especially starting on that soft tyre. The white and the yellow in that middle of your graphic there, you might go to the medium compound tyre, the yellow wall tyre, you might go to the hard compound tyre. That is still a choice that we will see how the teams work out, depending on track temperatures as well.
come down to 29.4, but that's still quite warm, quite a high track temperature as we get ready for the start of this race.
I'm slightly surprised that there's no more deviation from the soft tyre than just the two McLarens, I have to say. Everyone had a free choice. I thought the likes of Sergio Perez, Lewis Hamilton, maybe George Russell might go for a medium and do something a little bit different, but that tells me that they basically think they can do the job, make something work on track, because Sergio Perez, if he finishes fourth, I think will be quite disappointed with that in a Red Bull that on the long runs looked like it had the edge on Friday. Max Verstappen on the front row has a good car underneath him, but he was beaten to pole position by Charles Leclerc. The two are big rivals, let's not forget. They've had some real ding-dongs in the past. This could be quite a spicy start to the race.
Looking at the previous winners here of the Bahrain Grand Prix, that doesn't include the Sakhir race, which was at the same venue but a slightly different layout. So Hamilton's taken the last 3 wins here, but nobody's ever won this Bahrain Grand Prix from 5th on the grid. Perez, funnily enough, did do the Sakhir win from there, but nobody's won the Bahrain Grand Prix as it's known from 5th. So can Lewis do it? He doesn't think so. He doesn't think he's in a car that's got the potential to win today. But let's wait and find out. Zhou Guanyu, the Chinese driver who was making his debut here this weekend, qualified 15th, first ever Chinese driver to get to race in a Grand Prix. 22 years old, and well, this must be a very, very special moment for him indeed. A winner in races in Formula 2, finished 3rd in the outright championship last year, but did a pretty good job in qualifying yesterday. So, Jolien, key moments now. Tyre temperatures coming up, getting to line up on the grid.
Look at a smoky load of burnouts from Carlos Sainz. Everyone else doing burnouts, but Sainz is, as soon as he is dropping the clutch, leaving a huge plume of smoke behind him, eager to get that rear tyre temperature up.
Remember, these are all new technology cars, particularly in aerodynamics, but they have new power units as well. So the standing start, they've all been practicing standing starts throughout the testing that they've done in Barcelona and here in Bahrain and this weekend. But this is our first race start of the season under these new technical regulations. Are they all going to get it right? Are there going to be any problems getting off the line? I doubt it, but you just never quite know. So the final row of the grid, remember, coming up at the back, we've got Lance Stroll and Nicholas Latifi in Aston Martin and Williams. The Williams blue car just moving into position now. So it looks as though we've got all 20 cars ready to go racing. Round 1 of the 2022 Formula 1 World Championship is all set to go. 20 brand new cars. Who's going to come out on top? Lights out, away we go, and it's an even start from the two front row men. Charles Leclerc's going to try and shut the door on Max Verstappen, and he goes right over to the inside. He knows how Max will attack, but Max will try and go around the outside. Can he do it? No, he can't. Sainz is now trying to do so. Perez is still in there, but Hamilton's got Perez, and can he hold on as they head up towards the next corner? Leclerc's got the lead, and Hamilton has taken a slight advantage. He's got himself into 4th.
And watch Kevin Magnussen now on the outside as well, fancying a nibble at some of the real front runners in the Haas. He goes round the outside of Sergio Perez, who is the big loser there. Now George Russell coming through past Perez, is he? Not there, into turn 5. It looked like Perez was maybe going to pass Carlos Sainz, who I think had this most sluggish start from the first couple of rows, but Sainz got good drive in that second phase, held his 3rd place, and it's Perez in the second Red Bull that tumbles down.
Remarkably tidy group, but Bottas has lost out a lot. Bottas is down in 14th place as we see the battles at the back going on here. Albon trying to hold off the likes of Gasly, and also Mick Schumacher's in that mix too. There is Charles Leclerc leading from Verstappen, Sainz in 3rd, Hamilton 4th. Then it's Magnussen and Perez. As we're looking down at the further down the order here. Tsunoda, in fact, it is in that Alfa Tauri, who is trying to get past Albon with Mick Schumacher directly behind him. So the blue Williams, that is Albon. He's in 11th place, Jolien. He started 14th, so it's gone well for him.
Cracking start. He had the most almighty twitch coming out of turn 8, trying to get on the throttle, eagerly keeping those cars behind him. He's had a great start, Alex Albon, but now he might have to get his elbows out for a little bit because he's passed what we know from yesterday are faster cars. Valtteri Bottas, really big loss for him then, all the way down to 14th.
Yeah, Ricciardo's at the back in the McLaren. Would you believe that? Daniel Ricciardo, a race winner in his time, a race winner last year for McLaren. He is right at the back of the field, and that's bitterly disappointing. A little bit of movement going on here as Lance Stroll, and in fact Nico Hülkenberg that was, trying to make a move, and has nipped past Lando Norris.
Medium tyres for the McLarens. Remember, they're the only ones not starting on the soft. and they're paying the price for that in these early laps then. This is why everyone else has gone for that soft tyre, because the McLarens just don't have the grip on the opening lap. Ricciardo's at the back, and Norris is tumbling down the order as well. Looks like Stroll's just come past him.
Look at how the Haas car there of Kevin Magnussen is hanging on to the back of the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton, not dropping away. And Sergio Perez, the big loser, as you mentioned, going down to 6th place in the other Red Bull. That really hasn't gone well for him. So you're riding on board with Lewis Hamilton.
And it's the perfect start for Ferrari. OK, they're not in 1-2, but they're in 1-3 still. Leclerc chopped across so hard to cover the inside for Max Verstappen. He knows what Verstappen will do. He'll throw in a lunge if he possibly can. So Leclerc, wise to that, chopped across at the start and kept the lead. And Sainz managed to get that drive in the second phase and keep third. And crucially, Hamilton is fourth and Magnussen is fifth as well. So Perez in that second Red Bull, you can see the gap now already starting to widen there between Verstappen and Sainz. But then there's two more cars that are slower cars between the second Ferrari and the second Red Bull. And if Perez doesn't get a hurry up here, make the most of some overtaking we hope will be a little bit easier in this season, he's going to find himself dropping away from that front trio quickly.
DRS has just been enabled. That's the drag reduction system where the rear wing opens up down the straights. Oh, and that's a bit of a mistake. And just about getting it back together once again. It was Magnussen just getting a little error, and it's got Perez the chance to get a drag down towards turn 4. Perez is going to have a go on the approach to turn 4, trying to go around the outside, but he just holds on there, Magnussen.
Perez got a chance though on the switchback. I think he's going to do that now. Magnussen on the back foot in the Haas. Perez right up the inside, and nothing Magnussen can do in the end to hold that off. Looked like it was his own mistake then at turn 1, overcooking it on the brakes. The cars are harder to drive, they're stiffer, they've got a full tank of fuel now, they're bumping a lot, and that looked like just driver error then for K-Mag, and that's one place back up for Perez. Look at the start then. Sainz gets away really badly, blocks Perez to the inside, then Hamilton is coming to the outside, but there's basically nowhere to go for Checo, and Sainz does really well to brake late on the outside, has a clear avenue there, and keeps his third place.
Yeah, that wasn't a brilliant get off the line for Sainz, but Perez then lost out on the exit of turn 2 and 3 to Kevin Magnussen, the man he has just overtaken. Let's listen.
Just a bit of wheel spin there in the last phase for Verstappen. Still a decent start, but it gave Leclerc a chance to chop to the inside. And then you can see the confidence Max had on the outside to brake as late as he dared. Leclerc fighting the Ferrari. Verstappen still fighting the Red Bull as well behind. Grip at a premium at this point, but all in all, status quo at the front. Hamilton got a brilliant start. Watch this. Sainz didn't get away well. Covers the inside. Chops Perez slightly, which is the cause of the Mexicans' downfall then in the end. And Hamilton then sweeps around the second Red Bull, and it's at this moment now Perez cannot commit to that corner because Hamilton's there, and it just puts him out of kilter, and he drops down past Magnussen and nearly George Russell.
Oh, look at that. There was contact. I hadn't realised there was the contact with Esteban Ocon with Mick Schumacher.
He caught it quick as a flash, didn't he?
Yeah.
Brilliant catch. 360, but only lost a couple of places with that.
That is incredible. Mick Schumacher still running 13th. So that is pretty impressive. The Ocon-Schumacher incident is under investigation. So let's see if that comes to anything. Meanwhile, Hamilton is staying with Carlos Sainz. On board with Verstappen.
Yeah, engine braking is doing funny things mid-corner.
Understood. Engine braking is doing funny things mid-corner. That's an interesting one.
So that's the overrun for Verstappen when he's braking, going down through the gears. There's basically, he's getting snaps of possibly oversteer or understeer as the engine braking. The overrun's not doing what he wants, and that's something they can actually fine-tune with the cars to help turn the car in or settle the rear end down. And Verstappen then is fighting some inconsistencies, it sounds like.
Well, I tell you what, Hamilton's doing a good job of staying with the Ferrari of Sainz at the moment, but down at the back, McLaren's having a tough time on that medium compound tyre because Lando Norris is now down in 18th place, so they're running last but two, effectively, the two McLarens, well down the list, just inside the top 10 of the two Alpines of Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon, the field coming through. So you can see Hamilton in the silver Mercedes in 4th, then Perez, then here's the other silver Mercedes, Russell trying to make a move on Magnussen. and Magnussen's gone too deep again, and Russell's gone through. So do you think that this is a little bit Kevin Magnussen, having not been in a Formula 1 race for a while, just sort of trying to get back up to speed?
He's not up to speed with that brake point for turn 1, that's for sure. Obviously slightly distracted with the silver nose appearing in his mirror, I'm sure, and just sailed straight past the brake point. No big lock-up, no massive panic, but it was enough that George snuck through on the inside. And the second time in 5 laps then, 4 if you discount the first lap, that Magnussen has missed that brake point. So he had a go on high fuel. He did run the testing here last week, so he knows what the car's capable of, but he's running with fast cars, and the Haas, whilst it was brilliant yesterday, it's not got the pace of a Mercedes or a Red Bull, and he's trying so hard to fight with them, but the car just can't keep him there.
So Mercedes getting back up. Let's take another look at this, Jolyon, how he went for the move and what Kevin did.
Yeah, I think he maybe saw George quite late in the day, and in the end it just looked like he was a back marker getting out the way. It was Haas of last year for a moment, but that was a fight for 6th place, and basically Magnussen missed his brake point, couldn't turn in, gifted the place to George Russell. And
maybe there was that element of, we think Mercedes are quicker than us anyway, is it worth fighting? Because you sometimes lose time and you get yourself back into the midfield battle, whereas if they could be top of the rest, they're still going to be in a very good position.
Kevin Magnussen has never yielded a place that easy, trust me. Even if he thought he couldn't fight with the Mercedes, he would not have made it that easy for him.
So Lewis Hamilton right in behind Carlos Sainz there. These drivers, we gather, are all certainly all concentrating on looking after their soft tyres already. Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon very close in 9th and 10th places. Then it's Tsunoda. Then a little battle going on here. Mick Schumacher trying to battle with Valtteri Bottas. And Bottas a bit wide, but holds on to the position for now. That's 13th. Bottas, the big loser on that opening lap, having qualified a brilliant 6th. But his opening laps aren't always the best, and it certainly didn't work out today. You're on board with his teammate now, Zhou Guanyu.
Still in 15th where he started, but now just with his teammate. 2 cars ahead. Mick Schumacher is the car just ahead of Zhou. And Esteban Ocon has been given a 5-second time penalty for tipping Schumacher into that spin on the first lap. I do think it was a bit of a bold one there for Ocon to keep his nose in, just the front wheel dangling to the apex of a corner that's notoriously not an overtaking place. So Ocon up into 10th, but 5 seconds he'll have to take at a pit stop. The good news for him, he's got 3.5 to the car behind already, Yuki Tsunoda.
So we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, here comes Mick Schumacher battling still with the Alfa Romeo. Behind him this time of Zhou Guanyu, the Chinese driver. It's a good start for him. He's not making any mistakes. He lost out a bit on the first lap, but he's been climbing back up again. His teammate, Bottas, is only 1 car between him and Bottas, so that's impressive. There's our race leader, Charles Leclerc, with a 2-second advantage over Verstappen. Then it's Sainz and Hamilton staying within DRS range. You can see that rear wing opening up, so he's got the DRS behind the Ferrari, but it's not enough for him to get alongside.
He's got pace though, hasn't he, Lewis? He's quick in the Mercedes. He's quicker than Carlos Sainz at this stage. Now, what I don't know is whether Sainz is just playing the long game here, not pushing his soft tyres too hard, allowing Verstappen and Leclerc to push ahead, and Sainz maybe looking to try and conserve the tyres at this stage, or is he just struggling for pace a little bit and having to genuinely watch his mirrors for the Mercedes that he so easily out-qualified yesterday?
So Zhou has got past Mick Schumacher. These two both ex-Formula 2 racers. They raced plenty together in Formula 2, and now they are battling away in Formula 1. And the Alfa Romeos are trying to gain some of that lost ground. But I can tell you that the Williams of Alex Albon is still doing a mighty job holding on to 12. There it is, the blue Williams being chased by Bottas in the red and white Alfa Romeo, with his teammate now closing up, and then Mick Schumacher behind. There is quite a gap from Albon to the next car, 3 or 4 seconds up to Yuki Tsunoda. But Albon is doing his utmost to hold on.
I think that's what's causing the gap from Ocon backwards. Albon was in 11th, held Tsunoda back. Tsunoda's passed him, and now he's holding Bottas and co back. Bottas, Zhou, Schumacher, Hülkenberg and Stroll. In fact, including Norris as well. They're all in a train behind Alex Albon's Williams. He's doing a good job though in 12th. Let's see if Valtteri can make an overtake this time around. I mean, you won't get much closer than that through turn 13, but you just cannot pass there. It's not a corner where you can easily follow through 11 and 12, but you've got to stay close here. In towards the final corner, nice long straight, then he'll get DRS out of this one. Needs a clean exit. and it looks like he's got it. So we'll get DRS this time, Valtteri, and he can make a move into one maybe.
Williams is quick in a straight line. It's not quick through the corners. We were looking at some data after yesterday, and it was pretty slow through the slow corners, particularly. Quick in a straight line, but DRS is working here for Valtteri Bottas. It puts him to the outside, though, and Albon holds on through turn 1. Now, can Bottas get the run on the exit of turn 2? There's often a second opportunity at this track. If you get a good exit here, he's now got another chance up towards turn 4. You can go around the outside as long as you don't run too deep, but no. Albon again doing a fine job, I have to say. Meanwhile, there's a bit of a battle going on between Mick Schumacher and Nico Hülkenberg right behind.
Look how much slower Albon is now. He's getting defensive as well. They're dropping away, plummeting from Yuki Tsunoda. Now 4 seconds. Here goes Bottas.
Yeah, down the inside, Valtteri Bottas takes that 12th place away, and in fact, Albon could lose, or could he? Because he still hasn't given up. This is great stuff from Albon. He is enjoying this, being back in Formula 1 after a year out as development driver for Red Bull, and he is fighting every inch.
It's going to be too late now, though. Bottas has the DRS, he has the inside, and I think that's going to be the move finally done. Great scrap between the two of them, both very fair, and went on for half a lap between them. Bottas with a nice looking move at the inside of turn 8. Albon fighting back, hanging it through turn 10, but finally Valtteri's through. That Alfa Romeo is way quicker than the Williams, and it should be Zhou now with his chance to attack Albon, who sadly looks like he's going to have a long afternoon now of keeping those cars behind that he passed at the start.
Yeah, it could be a tough one for him. Zhou now having to try and line that car up, get a good exit, as Bottas did. He has got a good exit there, I would say. He's going to get DRS. That rear wing flap opens up, gains him speed. We're getting an idea of how these new cars react. Albon has it open as well, because he's close enough to Bottas that his DRS is in operation, and so he's still got that straight line speed. Now, it's into the next section that Bottas was able to get even closer, and then as they went down towards turn 8, when he made the move itself, on board with Zhou as he now tries to find a way past Alexander Albon. Alfa Romeo versus Williams. The Alfa Romeo with Ferrari power, and that Ferrari power unit is working extremely well in all of the cars, whether it's Ferrari, Alfa Romeo or Haas. They all share the same power unit, and straight line speed is certainly looking very strong. Now, he doesn't do the Bottas move there. That was where Bottas dived down the inside. He's going to have to try somewhere else.
It's unconventional, the Bottas move, actually. Turn 8 is not an obvious overtaking place, but obviously Valtteri had a good chance on the last lap because they were side by side through the first part of the lap. This is where he made the move. Is Zhou going to be close enough? Albon has a look in the mirrors. It's quite a quick corner. I don't think he's going to be close enough. That will not send a lunge into turn 11.
Now, what's happened in the background here? Because this was Hülkenberg. Oh, he's locked up. I think he's now behind his teammate. I was just looking in the background. Yeah, Lance Stroll's gone past him. So the two Aston Martins have swapped round. That was in the battle with Mick Schumacher. So Mick Schumacher in the whites and red Haas. Hülkenberg got the braking wrong. Again, he's been out of racing for 18 or more than 18 months. And maybe that was just one of those kind of errors.
Yeah, that was a bit of race rustiness.
Hamilton in battle with Perez here. Now, this is interesting because Perez, of course, lost out at the start of the race, but now he's got some good speed, and Perez, I think, is going to find a way past Hamilton. Yes, he does, and makes it look pretty easy. But Hamilton hasn't given up. He's still fighting on the exit of turn 4. In the end, Perez has done enough. So Perez is now up into 4th place and can go chasing after Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. Hamilton was keeping Sainz within a close distance for a while, but he's just dropped away a bit in the last couple of laps.
Sainz hasn't really upped his pace, but Hamilton's pace is dropping quite a lot now in the last couple of laps. You can see the gap now. The Ferrari has just extended away from the Mercedes. Now it's the Red Bull because Perez has come through. I wonder if this is the first glimpse of some proper tyre degradation now for Hamilton. He followed Sainz so closely in those early laps, and that's always more damaging for your tyres when you're sliding around in less dirty air, we hope, but still dirty air this year. Quite straightforward in the end for Sergio Perez. Had the DRS, went to the outside. Hamilton thought about a defence. He thought about coming back at turn 5, but he just didn't have the grip.
Meanwhile, Zhou just finding his way past Albon at last, and so that puts him now up into 13th place. The two Alfa Romeos are running outside the top 10, but doing a good job. Now there's our race leader with an advantage of 3 seconds over Max Verstappen. And still a long way to go in this race. There's Carlos Sainz, who's pulled away from the battle behind. Now is Perez going to be lapping a little quicker here and able to close up that gap. We'll be watching that closely. George Russell is in 6th place. Then Kevin Magnussen still up there in 7th, ahead of Gasly in the blue and white Alfa Tauri. Then we've got the Alpines. Ocon ahead of Alonso, but we know that Ocon does have a 5-second penalty at some point when he makes his pit stop. Tsunoda, Bottas is there. Joe is next up, then Albon, and he's still being chased by Lance Stroll, Mick Schumacher, Nico Hulkenberg, and then you can see the orange McLarens in the background. This is a bit of a shock. I know they're on different tyres, but when you think they finished 1-2 at Monza in Italy last year, they had a really strong season. Okay, they weren't quite as strong as Red Bull and Mercedes, but this has got to hurt that they're this far down.
I don't think they were expecting the medium tyres to literally plunge them to the back of the field. A little bit harrowing for them, I think, to be looking so competitive last year, on a good trajectory in the first race of this season. They are the team at the back. But on the medium tyres, they've got a long way to try and make something work on strategy, but they've also got a long way to climb. A lot of cars to overtake. We haven't heard a lot from the leaders.
I really have zero traction.
Understood, Max.
Well, there you've heard something. Max Verstappen, zero traction. And traction is actually crucial here in Bahrain, Jolyon, because you've got these slow corners and it's traction that drives you out of them, isn't it?
Yeah, that was very timely. Here on Mercedes crew. So Hamilton's been struggling. He's been dropping away from that fight with Sainz, and he's coming straight into the pits here then. The first driver to pit in the season.
Yeah, that's right. And this is early for a 2-stop race, but it should be achievable. Let's see which tyre he goes on to. Is he going on to the yellow-walled medium or the hard? I think he's going on to the hard, isn't he? Yeah. So because presumably they had to do a short stint on the soft tyre, they've decided to go for the hard tyre. And this will be interesting. Quite a long pit stop time, 3.4 seconds. And Jolyon, this is something we're going to be watching for. These wheels are heavier than F1 has experienced before. So just the whole getting them off the car is harder, and there's new design of the wheel hubs as well, so we could see some problems. Oh, and that's a mistake from Hamilton.
Well, it's tyre warm-up. He's got absolutely no grip at all. Normally you put on a new tyre and you get a hit of grip from that, but Hamilton's scrabbling around on the rear end. He's weaving now to try and get the temperature in, and that's another thing that's changed for this year. The blanket temperatures are reduced, and particularly if you pit for a hard tyre, the warm-up is not there, even in Bahrain at the moment. So it should come back for Lewis pretty quickly. It's an abrasive circuit, particularly with all these traction zones putting some energy through the rears. But the undercut is going to be not such a thing as it was more dramatically last year when it helped him win the Grand Prix. This time he came out of the pits, no grip. Let's have a look. Turns it in, little lock up and then no grip at the front. Then he's so wide, and it was, look, he's not even really turning in at that point. There's just absolutely no grip at all, no temperature in the tyres, and that's going to be something that everyone else is going to be looking at really closely. Do you go for the mediums now? Maybe less durable, but you have a better outlap.
How exciting was that for the Chinese driver making his debut in Formula 1 to overtake a 7-time world champion in his first ever race?
Well, it's still exciting for him because he's going to have to defend now.
No grip on this side.
Okay, copy.
Yeah, I think we've all worked that one out, Lewis. He had no grip at all on that tyre from the look of it. Now he's got a bit of temperature. He has actually caught back up to Joe, and he's got a good chance now of overtaking the Alfa Romeo, getting it back. Everybody's learning. Everybody's got to find out how these tyres work. He's got the slipstream, he's got DRS, and he's going to make a fairly straightforward pass. But for Zhou Guanyu, what an opportunity to go racing with Lewis Hamilton in his first ever Grand Prix. You wouldn't have thought this was going to happen. Jolyon, how much of this might be down to the fact that the tyre temperatures they're allowed to warm the tyres up to before they go out, the tyre blankets they use, lower temperatures this year? Do you think that has an effect?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the change, and it means that particularly if you fit onto a hard tyre that takes longer to warm up, and you have cooler blanket temperatures, which are mandated in 2022, we are going to see a lot more of this sort of thing. It's nice to see actually drivers fighting the car in an old school way when they come out of the pits and not just immediately have the hit of grip, but it's going to change the way the strategy works, particularly in races where there's cooler temperatures and harder tyres. It's not desperately cool out there, 23 degrees air temperature, but they are hard tyres, and Lewis, it just took him one sector really, but it's that one sector that can be so often crucial when you come out side by side with someone, or you need to do a majestic outlap to try and undercut someone, which would have been the strategy of old.
Well, here's our race leader, it's Charles Leclerc, with a gap of 3.6 seconds over Max Verstappen. Let's just have a look at what Perez has been saying. We're going plan B, okay, so it's to do with their tyre strategy for Perez.
So that's presumably going longer for Perez. That's normally what plan B is, and then they have C, which is even longer, because we know he's good on those tyres. 2.6 seconds he is behind Carlos Sainz. Now I'm thinking Sainz doesn't have the pace. Early on it looked like maybe he was holding back to conserve the tyres, but he's now 6.5 seconds away from Verstappen. He's 10 seconds off his teammate in the race lead. This is looking more and more like a two-horse race. Leclerc in the Ferrari, 3.5 seconds clear of Verstappen in the Red Bull behind him. Sainz dropping back is falling away from contention with 14 laps gone. And look, Perez is closing slowly but surely, recovering from that poor start, and now Red Bull thinking of how they can jump Carlos Sainz in this pit stop phase.
Interestingly, the other that have made pit stops now, Albon, who's just made a pit stop, and Mick Schumacher, they have gone out on the medium tyre. In fact, look, Mick Schumacher and Albon are going to be absolutely together again now on cold tyres. Can he fight? Not really. So there you are. You can see straight away that coming out on those cold tyres does make life pretty difficult.
Mediums for Albon. It still looks so clumsy, doesn't it, when the cars come out and they're just got no grip. You rarely see a Formula One car in that state. Here we go, Max Verstappen, second place.
So Max Verstappen into the pits. Now, how are Red Bull going to work this? They usually have great strategies. Can they put the attack? They've got a yellow flag in sector 1 as well. Not sure what's happened. He's gone now, this is interesting. He's gone for another set of reds. Another set of soft tyres, a brand new set. Now, also having come in Sainz in the Ferrari. Leclerc's still out there. This is really interesting strategy from Red Bull.
This is an undercut attempt then. It's an undercut attempt for Verstappen. 3 seconds was the gap to Leclerc. It's Sainz also in the pits, and with a quicker pit stop, Red Bull was 0.6 slower than Ferrari, and that could be crucial because this is now got to be a punchy outlap from Verstappen. What sort of tyre warm-up is he going to have? But remember, whatever warm-up issues that Verstappen has at this point, Leclerc's going to have it the next lap, and they could be closer on track, and Leclerc might have to defend on cold tyres even if he keeps the track position on one lap. Verstappen now needs to start pumping in the sectors and putting the pressure on. Sainz also on the soft tyres, so Ferrari maybe just going to copy Verstappen and Red Bull like for like.
Yeah, interesting strategy there indeed, to go straight onto the softs again and then go to the harder tyre a little bit later on. So Lance Stroll heading this next little group. He's in 9th place. So Leclerc being told to make his pit stop now. We should see him coming in as Alonso tries to hold off Pierre Gasly for the moment. Gasly running in 12th position in the Alfa Tauri. And remember, Ocon, who has now made his stop.
That was a really early start.
Yeah, copy that, Lewis.
Fastest middle sector for Verstappen. He's 1.6 seconds quicker than Leclerc in the middle sector. Here comes Leclerc. Ben, this is going to be super tight.
So is the undercut actually going to work? That looked like a pretty good pit stop. We know it wasn't, 3.1 actually, it wasn't as good as I thought. So actually the pit stop times are very similar. Is this going to work? Verstappen's coming down the main straight now. They're going to be close. There's Perez. He's going onto a set of yellows. Look ahead, down to the first corner. Leclerc and Verstappen, look at how close it is. Verstappen's on a set of tyres that are fully up to temperature. Leclerc's trying to get up to speed, and he's in front for the moment. But no, can he hold on? That's the question as they head to turn 4.
DRS for Verstappen. Leclerc needing to cover this off because his tyres will fire up very shortly, but they're not there yet. Verstappen picked up the DRS, but isn't close enough, and now we're into the windier sections. He's going to have to do something majestic at turn 8 maybe if he's going to make this work, but Leclerc just squeezing on the throttle on the exit of turn 7 has opened up the gap, and with every corner now, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari is going to have a better chance to defend because he'll get those soft tyres firing right up to temperature and they'll have good grip. So close for Ferrari.
But there. What quality driving from both there. And I was impressed there with Leclerc. I thought we're going to see a lock-up here. You know, when you've got that pressure on, you just come out on fresh tyres. But he dealt with that so far, so good. But this lap is not over.
Yeah, the pressure's still there, Ben. He's only 4 tenths behind Max Verstappen through turn 11. The DRS wide open again. And now they fly through 12. Up the hill into 13, the penultimate corner. Max Verstappen is well within a second. Here we go. Leclerc moves immediately to the middle of the track. We're going to have an attack here. If Verstappen has anything left here to use in terms of energy deployment, just chuck it all in. He'll get some DRS. This is a big moment.
So let's have a look, and you can tell that Charles Leclerc instantly going to the middle of the track, then back out to the outside. Fastest lap for Max Verstappen. He's got DRS, he's got a great run, and here comes Max Verstappen to take the lead in Bahrain. He's got in front of the Ferrari. Can he hold on? Not run too wide. Beautifully done by Max Verstappen. Leclerc now in second position, but he's still on the attack. Now he has DRS. He'll go on the attack down into turn 4. He'll go for the outside. Oh, wow! Fantastic move. If he doesn't go too wide on exit, that was stunning.
Beautiful racecraft from the two of them. At first, I thought Leclerc had been sloppy. He gave Max Verstappen the inside for turn 1, as if he wasn't really expecting him to attack with the closing speed he had on the straight. That Red Bull was quick, and Verstappen was assertive right the way to the inside. But there's double DRS here, and Leclerc picked it up on the exit of turn 3 again. Went to the outside. The two couldn't have been much closer, and Charles knew that that was everything for the lead. Look here, I thought Leclerc could have covered the inside more, but Max had quite an open goal at this point, but he just couldn't get the car stopped to get the exit as well. The closing speed was ginormous there with the DRS and the slipstream. We thought the DRS might be slightly less effective this year, but it didn't look it there. The wheel-to-wheel action has been superb, and this is for the race lead. Leclerc, he actually, that's usually Verstappen lunge territory, isn't it, from the inside? I thought Max might have just gambled on it, but we're going to have take 2 here. Verstappen still looks like he's within a second.
Yeah, and he's going to have DRS again. We're learning how these new types of Formula 1 car race against each other, and I tell you, this is looking promising. This is what Formula 1 were hoping with the new design of cars, that you would get racing as close as this, and we've got it again. And Verstappen's down the inside of Charles Leclerc once again, holds him beautifully onto the apex. Charles Leclerc now will have the same situation, but can he get the braking done as late as he did last time? He's going to go to the inside, and Verstappen's on the outside. The DRS works, and Charles Leclerc goes in, but Verstappen's trying to go with him on the outside. He sensibly just backed off a little bit, and Leclerc's got it. I tell you what, Jolyon, this is proving that what F1 were trying to introduce to make more overtaking more easy, it is working here.
Phenomenal racecraft again. What a battle. If this is an idea of what we're going to get for the season, I am so excited. 2 young drivers charging for a race lead, probably a race victory, but there's a long way to go, and they are fighting it tooth and nail. Verstappen with the DRS open again now is able to stay close through these corners. That's what's giving him the DRS on the main straight. He can follow through these corners. This time last year when he was attacking Lewis Hamilton, he had a big slide, he couldn't get the temperature in the, or he overheated the rear tyres and lost it at this turn 13 corner. But it's 2 laps in a row, it could be 3 laps in a row in a minute, because Verstappen, as you can see, is still just about within DRS range. And this fight is just fantastic, exquisitely measured so far by Leclerc. I thought he was early on the brakes on the last one, allowed Verstappen to stop the car, but he still got the exit.
Yeah, he's got a better exit this time, Charles Leclerc. But I tell you what, this must remind these 2 young guys of what their karting career was like in terms of overtaking, re-overtaking. Look again, Verstappen's close. He goes for a very late lunge. Surely he's not going to be able to hold on to that. Leclerc, yes, can just come straight back at him. And they know this is wonderful, but that just shows you this is real racing. And this is something that sets up a wonderful season in potential, as Leclerc just holding on for the moment from Max Verstappen in second.
The racecraft's almost reminding me a little bit of Austria a couple of years ago, when it was these 2 fighting for the lead. Leclerc is giving Verstappen a chance into turn 1 3 times in a row now. The first time he defended to the middle and Verstappen went even further to the inside, took the place, and Leclerc came back through on the exit. The second time he was pretty early on the brakes, and Verstappen just said, fine, thanks, I'll take it on the inside, and Leclerc got the exit. That time he was so composed, Leclerc. Look at this. He's looking at Verstappen in the mirrors. He's waiting. There goes Max. If you're not going to turn in, I will. But this time he's just a little bit later on the brakes. He's trying to turn in, and that could be costly. A big front right lockup. There's likely to be a flat spot on his tyre, and that could be a crucial moment in this lead battle on those softs. You can see the flat spot. Leclerc once again gifting Max the inside at turn 1, because he knows with DRS on the exit he can have that run, and 3 out of 3 he's made it work.
Yeah, this is a circuit where you've got a couple of DRS zones next to each other, which does make a big difference. But I tell you what, Verstappen's still not miles away. And what I'm impressed with, actually, is how the DRS is still working better than I thought it might. We were told it might not. He's not actually within DRS range this time. He's just outside it. So this time, he's definitely not going to make the lunge.
Yeah, finally, Leclerc can have a turn one in a more normal manner. It reminds me of Austria, because this is exactly what played out for the win. When was it? Must have been 2019, before Ferrari went to the doldrums.
Yeah.
And it was in the dying embers, the last 3 or 4 laps.
That's right.
And with 4 laps to go, Leclerc gave Verstappen the inside, and he got the run on the exit. With 3 laps to go, he did exactly the same, only Verstappen shoved him off on the exit in a contentious race win in the end. This time, Verstappen doesn't have that chance, really. Leclerc has the DRS on the exit, and he's just got straight line speed to fire back at Max. That first one was the most crucial, because that was the moment with Verstappen on the inside and an overlap. You thought Leclerc really had to do wonders to make that work on the outside, and he did.
Bit of a lock-up for Fernando Alonso. We're looking at some of the other action that's been going on while we've been so obsessed with what's happening up front. We saw Zhou go past Norris. We're seeing a few changes further down the order. Albon has just moved ahead of Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg's coming to the pits. That's why Hulkenberg making a pit stop right now. But the McLarens are still struggling way down the field at this stage. So third place is still being held by the other Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Fourth place and fastest lap for Sergio Perez. So Perez is still not out of this battle to try and get on the podium. And then you've got the 2 Mercedes, which are in a different world.
Gap to Verstappen behind 1.5. Really good job before. Keep it like this.
Yeah, they're very impressive what Leclerc's done. 1.5 seconds means he's out of DRS range. Now it's actually up to 1.8 seconds as they go over the line. So that's impressive stuff. Charles Leclerc delivering a beautiful race so far. Should have won this race back in 2019. Had a mechanical issue that put him out. This was a moment ago with Mick Schumacher on the inside there. Number 47 getting past Lando Norris. And that's the view on board.
Hideous race for Norris. Hideous race for the whole of McLaren. Everyone has pitted apart from Norris, and Lando's 15th with a pit stop still to come. The strategy hasn't worked, and the car is slow for now. There's a lot of work to do for them.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise, because their testing in Barcelona, the original test, was actually quite promising, but things have not gone so well since they came to Bahrain.
They missed out on so much running because of reliability problems. The front brakes were overheating all the time. They could barely string 10 laps together last week, and it looks like it's hurt them. But hopefully they'll recover. This is just looking like a long learning afternoon.
So Valtteri Bottas is riding here, just trying to close up onto Tsunoda. But his new teammate, doing a good job staying with him, not too far away. He is a few seconds behind Valtteri. So on board with Valtteri as he tries to line up against Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda going into his 2nd season of Formula 1. He did score his first points at this track in Bahrain last year, so points on his debut, Yuki Tsunoda. Then went through a bit of a more difficult mid-season period, but there he is, the number 22 car, the Japanese racer, the 18th driver from Japan to race in Formula 1 over the years, and actually he finished the season really well with that 4th place finish in Abu Dhabi. So he's got that experience now, a year behind him, and he'll be doing his best to keep behind him Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo as well. Alfa look to target to get points here this weekend after that great effort by Bottas in qualifying. He's proving more difficult in the race.
Well, he'll be ruining that bad start. Should have been well up there with Kevin Magnussen looking at some big points. There's plenty of time to recover, and he's slowly on that path, but he's got a lot of overtaking to do. He's got a faster car than Tsunoda. The Alfa Romeo was so quick in qualifying pace, at least yesterday. Valtteri looks at home in it, but he's put himself on the back foot with that poor start. And for years, remember, this is a driver that's had a Mercedes underneath him. Okay, if he made a bad start, he had the pace to recover past these midfield drivers as if they were standing still. Now he's one of them, and the times are so close in the midfield. If you lose 7 places at the start of a race, it's a whole evening's work to try and get it back usually.
Absolutely right. Still, there are harder things to do for evening work, I guess, but these lucky guys are getting this opportunity.
He's probably not complaining.
No, that's right, absolutely. So, looking down that list at the moment, we've got that battle up front, which is just beginning to release again as Leclerc just eases away from Max Verstappen, and it could well come down to the 2nd round of pit stops to decide this race. We are expecting a 2nd round. Julian, I'm a little surprised that Mercedes, the only team that's gone for the hard tyre in this middle sector of the race. I mean, it's possible other teams will go for it at the end, but teams are either on the soft for a second run or they've gone for the medium, except for Hamilton and Russell.
Remember, Hamilton was the first driver into the pits. Mercedes have quite a diva of a car. And I think didn't they coin that phrase last year when it was tricky? If they thought it was a diva then, it's a whole new bag this year. It's quite difficult to drive. It's a little bit snappy. That's maybe adding to some rear tyre degradation issues for Lewis Hamilton. He was the first driver to pit, struggling after making a place at the start, and that hard tyre now will just give them a more stable middle stint. They're not miles clear of Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen's only 6 seconds away from George Russell, albeit on a soft tyre, and he's going to have to run on a medium or a hard in that final stint. And remember, Lewis lost plenty of time on that outlap on the hard tyre as well, so maybe not the best option for race pace, but it's the safe option, it's the durable option for a Mercedes that maybe looks a little bit heavier on its tyres.
So can Bottas get a little closer to Yuki Tsunoda and try and make the move to get into 11th place? He wants to get back in the points for Alfa Romeo, but he's got to get into the top 10 to do that. And up ahead of Tsunoda, we've also got the two Alpines of Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon. They're going to be tough to overtake, and it's still not quite there for the Alfa. Let's see. He gets this second DRS drag, but again, not a chance. So it's funny, isn't it? We saw some great battling between Leclerc and Verstappen for the lead. We haven't seen quite the same overtaking going on further back down the order. Alex Albon just going past Lando Norris. Albon up into 15th place as a result of that. Lando Norris down in 16th position, and really having a tough time of it. Norris hasn't made a pit stop yet, remember, and a lock up there from Lewis. We don't see that very often.
Well, the Diva Mercedes, tricky to slow down. Braking with the stiffer cars now is one of the crucial areas. We saw lockups for Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hulkenberg early on. The cars are just not riding the bumps so well, and if you just overcook it by a metre or two, the braking point, you add a tiny bit of pressure on the left pedal, and you can have that lockup, and it can hurt you for the whole stint.
Think about the 3 stops.
Think about 3 stops, says Carlos, but they did go for soft. I would imagine that they could do a long stint on the hard. We're getting towards half distance, and for example, Lando Norris has not stopped yet, so he might be looking at a single stop strategy if he decides to go onto the hard tyre.
Yeah, the tyres are sort of hanging on for Norris, although he's been mired in traffic and not very quick, so it's not all that representative for the leaders. Sainz is not having the easiest of days. He was impressed with himself, I think, for recovering in qualifying and almost taking pole position when he's been slower than his teammate through all 3 practices. Almost took pole, had the pace in qualifying, was right there with Max Verstappen, just 6 thousandths between them. But on race pace at the moment, he's not able to make any inroads into the top 2, and that's in spite of all that fighting we saw from Leclerc and Verstappen. That would have cost them seconds per lap, and Sainz is still at that 10-second gap, and he's still got Sergio Perez just 2.5 seconds back, and Perez is on the medium tyre, so Red Bull are doing something different. That can give Perez a chance at some soft tyres later on to go and attack Sainz for that podium place, but it still looks like it's a 2-horse race between Leclerc and Verstappen at the front. I just wonder at what point Red Bull can just dive in for another set of tyres and pit Verstappen. How aggressive can they go? Bearing in mind, that's exactly how Lewis Hamilton won the race last year.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We'll have to wait and see how that goes in the latter stages. But for the moment, Charles Leclerc is leading. He has real skill at this track. When he joined Ferrari in 2019, he took pole position here, made a bad start actually that year, made a good start this time, but back in 2019, and his teammate Sebastian Vettel got in front, and Leclerc wasn't having it. He dived past him very quickly and showed Vettel that he is very fast indeed. And this track definitely does suit the man from Monaco, Charles Leclerc, but is he going to be able to fend off Verstappen all the way through? We're yet to see. So Yuki Tsunoda, who's gained quite a few places from qualifying position and still fending off Valtteri Bottas. Meanwhile, the two Alpines are together again, despite Ocon having had that 5-second penalty in the pits, and it did drop him, obviously, quite a long way behind Alonso. He's definitely got more race pace than Alonso. I'm surprised at the level of race pace that Ocon has compared to his teammate, the man who's won here 3 times in the past. Here comes Bottas, looking for the wide line into turn 4. Is he going to cut back on exit? I don't think he's quite got the pace to do that, although Tsunoda was a touch wide there, so they do go side by side briefly. And we'll see whether he does come out in front. No, Tsunoda's still there. as Lando Norris is now in the pit lane.
The cars could definitely follow more closely this year, that's for sure. Bottas even managing to slow the car down nicely at turn 8, being right underneath Tsunoda's diffuser. Is he going to think about it into turn 10? He's already put in that unorthodox overtake at this point earlier on Alex Albon. Look how close the Alpines are as well. Ocon crawling all over the back of Alonso, and that's for points paying positions, 9th and 10th. And they need to get a hurry up because Bottas is in an Alfa Romeo that's quick. If he can pass Tsunoda, he's going to be bearing down on those the pink Alpines. So maybe they've got to be thinking about some team orders if Alonso's not just tyre saving and can't pick up the pace.
Well, there's a lot to think about still at this stage of the race, and we will find out as we continue who's going to go for one-stop strategies, 2 stops, 3 stops that Carlos Sainz has been mentioning. I think there's still a lot up in the air at the moment as these new cars. Alonso coming into the pits for his 2nd pit stop. Now that's really early, I would have said, on a set of mediums. Has he got a problem? That is a question we need to look out for.
I think the problem might be degradation for Alonso. He had no pace, and now he pits for a set of hard tyres with the hope of going to the end, but it's an awfully long way to go for Fernando.
Yeah, we still haven't quite got to half distance, so that is a long distance on a set of hard tyres that might be achievable. Still Valtteri Bottas fighting behind Yuki Tsunoda. Still can't find a way through. Remember, this is the first time that Bottas has raced for the Alfa Romeo team. He's done 10 Grand Prix here in Bahrain over the years with Williams back in 2013. That's where he started. And he's had points, actually, in every Bahrain Grand Prix, except that very first one that he did with Williams. Otherwise, he's had some great results, but he's never won. He's finished 2nd a couple of times. He's had no non-finishes as well. So this track has worked pretty well for Bottas, but it hasn't been one of those where he has actually taken the outright victory. And he just seems to be a bit frustrated at the moment, tucked in behind Tsunoda. Alex Albon being chased by Fernando Alonso, who's now made that pit stops on fresh tyres. So you would think that he's going to be able to get past pretty quickly.
Hard tyres on for Alonso. You can see him just wheel spinning slightly out of turn 8, but they are up to temperature. He's got the DRS on Albon, and Albon probably won't fight him too hard because they're on different strategies, and Albon will need to pit again before the end, and Alonso may well not. He's got a long way to go on those hard tyres though. I wonder at the front, Leclerc now leads by 3.8 seconds. He's held off that relentless 3-lap charge that Verstappen put on him. Verstappen had that lock-up on the final one. That's going to be hurting him at this moment. The flat spot that will be there in some capacity on the front right. What can Red Bull do now? Because he's actually, Verstappen, falling away from a dangerous undercut range. He's just drifting back from Leclerc. If he's not saving the tyres, then they're losing a slight hand that they can have with this second stop that's going to have to come for those top 3 or 4.
Yeah.
He needs to keep the pressure on, otherwise with every lap that passes and Leclerc builds a gap, the undercut becomes less threatening, and Red Bull lose a chance to do something creative on the strategy to win this.
So Alonso does find a way past Alex Albon, fairly straightforward in the end. Lance Stroll is chasing down after them as we go on board with Max Verstappen. Let's listen in.
Almost dead again, the tyres.
Yeah, he's struggling for these soft tyres, and he's, as you say, he's suddenly just dropping back a little bit more. Actually, he did drop to 3.9 seconds. He's got it back to 3.7, so perhaps Leclerc's feeling the same.
I think if they're going away, they've got to pit, as Hamilton's doing in the Mercedes.
Yeah, that set of hard tyres. Is he going for a set of mediums? He is. So it's all yellow now on Lewis's car. He's gone for the yellow colours. He's gone for his yellow crush helmet that he used to, not quite the same, but very similar to the one he used in his karting days, that yellow livery, and it's rather lovely to see. And now he's got the yellow tyres, the medium compound tyres on the car as well. And out he comes. Whether the car's going to work better on those tyres, we'll see.
And Lewis, important that we don't push this tyre too hard on the outlap.
Well, that's an interesting point. He is very careful through turns 1 and 2 this time, isn't he? Well, that was where it all went a bit wrong for him on the hard compound tyre. So he's taken that completely on board and is being gentle and bringing those tyres in more gradually. They must have been watching what some of the other teams have been doing on those medium compounds, Perez in particular. Let's have a look at the stop. Did it go okay?
I think it was the rear right that was a little bit slow. The front left was also slightly slow, and it was overall a second slower than it needed to be for Mercedes. An optimum pit stop or even an average pit stop. Not the cleanest for Hamilton, but in this race it's probably not going to matter hugely because he's fairly safe in 5th position once his teammate pits and Magnussen and Gasly ahead.
Latifi under pressure from Ricciardo. So the Blue Williams of Nicholas Latifi, the Canadian, with Daniel Ricciardo, the Australian, who's had a tough time in recent weeks, having to deal with testing positive for COVID-19 and not being able to do the testing here in Bahrain. Lando Norris did it all. He's got a chance, though, to get past the Williams, but it's not happening yet. This is a tricky section. You can't really get alongside until the next corner. Here you can sometimes do it, and he's going to go for it down the inside. And I think he should have made the move, unless Latifi can cut back on exit, power on out. Both of these cars use the Mercedes power unit, so the acceleration out of there is all down to traction rather than actual horsepower. McLaren had the advantage, no doubt about it, but he's not fighting in the top 10. He's way down the back. He's down in 17th place, and he's now going chasing after the other Williams of Alex Albon.
I think there'll be a huge smirk at McLaren for that one, overtaking the car that qualified last. It's progress. Ricciardo needs to get some laps in, they need to learn, but it's a fight way lower than they would have hoped for coming into this race. It was a nice overtake from Ricciardo, though. They could follow still closely through 6 and 7, a higher speed corner, and then Latifi thought about going to the inside, but in the end drifted to the middle of the road, and you don't need to open the door for Daniel Ricciardo. You know what's coming after that. Took a huge amount of curb through there as well, Ricciardo, and then just sent it down the inside. Nice pass.
Yeah, that late braking, we used to see that a lot from Daniel when he was winning races. Let's hope that these new cars give him that sort of confidence again. Lance Stroll, battling wheel to wheel with Albon. That didn't quite come off for him, did it? Let's just take another little look at this.
Albon's gone wide and Stroll did get through then later in the lap.
Okay. Yeah.
Persistence paid off then for Lance into 15th. Williams with Albon in 16th now, the next target for Ricciardo, and Latifi in 18th.
Julian, we're on lap 30 out of 57. Let's listen to the leader.
And medium compound is stronger than expected.
Okay, medium compound stronger than expected. That's what Ferrari have said. I think it's something the Mercedes have learnt as well. So that's an interesting one.
Bit of traffic though for the leaders. Leclerc's just gone round the Aston Martin of Nico Hulkenberg. That's the first driver to be lapped.
I'm just going to say, though, that we are half distance and all the cars are running. I did wonder, because these new technological changes that have been made to cars and the fact that we saw several teams having issues in testing here in Bahrain with reliability problems, I did wonder whether we would start to see some dropping out, but no sign of it yet. We've got all 20 cars still running in this race.
It's impressive, isn't it? Especially after what we've seen through the weekend so far. Valtteri Bottas not really getting any mileage in FP1 with a power unit issue, a hydraulic issue for Tsunoda, an engine cover coming off for Ocon. There's been plenty going on, but they're all still running.
Do you think you'll see Bottas coming in now? Because the fact that Tsunoda's just stopped and he's been battling with him so hard, I do wonder if we might see him. Alonso getting past Mick Schumacher, by the way.
Verstappen's coming in the pits then. 4 seconds he was behind Charles Leclerc as he dived in. 4 seconds is a lot to make up. That's not really undercut range unless Leclerc has a bit of an issue in the pits.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was the fastest stop. Well, 3.0, not too bad, but not up to normal Red Bull standards, or they're usually the pace setters when it comes to the pit stops. But 3 seconds, well, we've seen quite a few around that sort of pace. He comes back out, crucial laps coming up again.
Nice clear space though for Max. Comes out still, that's George Russell in the background that you can see. Lewis Hamilton's already made his second stop and is much further down. Still got to put in an outlap here. Put the pressure on Ferrari. Let's keep an eye on the sector times. Leclerc, remember, on those aging soft tyres. Verstappen on the medium tyres that's hanging on. And Leclerc, once again, has been called, as he quite needs to be, to pit and cover off this latest Verstappen attack. But the medium tyres won't quite give Max the hit of grip that he had last time around when he put the softs on.
Leclerc is actually stuck behind Daniel Ricciardo at the moment, so I don't think this is a perfect lap for Charles Leclerc. He is tucked behind Daniel Ricciardo as they're currently up towards turn 13. I thought he would have got past him by now, but he hasn't yet.
Maybe that's the tactical move then from Red Bull. Try and pit when Leclerc's going to be in traffic, and Leclerc's going to be diving through into the pit lane anytime soon, but he's still behind Ricciardo in that final sector.
Here you are, on board with Leclerc. He's had a bit of a difficult lap behind Ricciardo because Ricciardo's on fresher tyres. In comes Charles Leclerc, and it's going to be all up again in terms of the pit stop and where he comes out in comparison to Max Verstappen. Verstappen is on the backstretch between turns 13 and 14.
1.4 seconds quicker in the middle sector, so he's going to be close. This needs to be good from Ferrari, and it's really good from Ferrari. That'll do half a second quicker than Red Bull's stop. That should leave Leclerc ahead of Max, but he'll have to get his tyres up into the right window.
So Verstappen's heading down the straight now. There's Verstappen on the right-hand picture of the picture. Here comes Charles Leclerc, and we're back into the battle that we saw earlier, but it's not quite as close as it was when they did this the last time. Ferrari fans are cheering, and the orange fans, Max Verstappen's fans, they're looking a little bit more worried because Max wasn't quite there with Charles Leclerc this time. Leclerc's got through the first couple of corners, but remember, Max has got a bit more tyre temperature up.
He's just got to get within a second around this part of the lap then he'll pick up some DRS on the back straight. Won't be able to attack, but it'll help him close in for where he crucially needs DRS, which is on the main straight. But Leclerc not struggling too badly with tyre warm-up. Remember, Max doesn't have a flat spot on this set.
Okay, this is now 2 times that I take it easy on the outlap, and I could have easily been in front. I'm never ever doing it again.
Oh, that's interesting. 2 times I've taken it easy on the outlap. I could have been in front. That's an He's basically disagreeing with what the team have told him to do, the strategy that they've taken on. We'll have to go back to that later. This is on board with Lewis Hamilton as he gets past Pierre Gasly, moving up into 7th position. And this was a straightforward DRS overtake down the main straight.
Fresher tyres for Hamilton coming past Gasly, and that one was straightforward. Gasly not fighting him. They're on different strategies, and Lewis trying to get back to that 5th place. Russell still hasn't pitted, doing a nice long stint in the middle. Where's Verstappen?
It's interesting to hear Max being unhappy about whatever strategies the team chose to go for. He wants to win this race, clearly, but Red Bull, everybody's trying to work out with these new cars, these tyres, these bigger wheels in Formula 1 this year. There's a lot to learn. Meanwhile, Hamilton now trying to get past Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. He'll probably wait at this section and then pick up DRS.
This should be another easy one for Lewis out of the final corner. If Magnussen doesn't dive off to the pits, then he's just going to breeze past him with the DRS again, and Kevin doesn't fight at all. So Lewis coming back into 6th place, and then it's just his teammate ahead. I can understand Verstappen's frustration, absolutely. Now, we heard the same radio message being played out for Lewis Hamilton of take it easy on the outlap, as Verstappen has said that he had. The difference is Hamilton wasn't trying to undercut anyone. He was in his own fight for 5th. He's too far back from the Red Bulls and the Ferraris. He's not been under huge pressure from Russell. He didn't need to gun it on the outlap, but Verstappen is fighting for the win here. Track position by gunning it on the outlap. Yes, maybe it would hurt the tyres in the long run. Maybe it'll come back to him later on, but that's the crucial phase. And Max just frustrated because he was told to save when actually he thinks if he gunned it on the outlap, gave it everything, he might have just been able to jump Leclerc. It would have been a huge undercut from 4 seconds back, but track position is still so important. Leclerc held it off with wheel-to-wheel racing the first time, and he didn't need to the second time.
You are free to push, Max. Free to push.
Free to push, I'm sure you are. Meanwhile, race leader Carlos Sainz has come into the pits, and well, he was only briefly leading the race because of the difference between him and Leclerc in terms of strategy. Perez in. Now this is a real battle, and look how close they are. Pretty similar in the pit lane. Ferrari actually quicker on the stop time than Red Bull. They've got a car coming out in front. That's the Williams coming back out in front of them as well, Latifi. So let's hope that he gets out of the way, because this could be a crucial battle for a podium position coming up between the Ferrari and Carlos Sainz. George Russell also into the pits, a 3.2 second stop time, not the best. But yeah, that 3rd place, Jolien, it's going to be a close one, isn't it, between Sainz and Perez?
And Perez has gone to the soft tyres, it seems. So he was quick on the mediums, actually. He's close behind Sainz, and he's going to have a faster tyre for a little bit to put pressure on Carlos Sainz, who's just not quite had the pace of the top 2 today. He's been fine, solid, but not able to challenge for the win.
So the battle is still on, 1.7 seconds is the gap. This is definitely not over yet. And we've got to see how these cars are behaving in the latter stages of this race. Max Verstappen has been told you can push, you can give it everything. In other words, he can probably run the engine to its higher limits. He can push these tyres hard. And he is actually gaining a tenth or two here and there. But then Charles Leclerc gets it back in different areas. And they're coming up to laps and cars.
Plethora of traffic coming up for Charles Leclerc. They've got to re-lap all those drivers they just lapped before the pit stops. Lando Norris is just ahead. Here we go on board with Verstappen, trying to look at the Ferrari ahead, which is too far away from him at the moment to do anything but just get your head down and pump in the lap times. Yeah, it was only 100th quicker than Leclerc. They traded basically lap times like for like on the last lap. But a bit of fighting then between Hulkenberg and Norris can be exactly what he needs to get himself in the mix.
It's looking pretty clean, and it's looking pretty tidy as well, as Lando Norris is in 17th place and Hulkenberg in 18th position, and both of them will be getting a blue flag in a moment. And once you see the blue flag as a driver down at the back of the field, you must slow down and let the leaders come through, and Hulkenberg knows that one well. Kevin Magnussen now back into the pits, still aiming to be kind of best of the rest behind Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes here today. Can the Haas team achieve it? Let's see how the pit stop goes. Not perfect, but not too bad. And a new set of medium compound tyres, 3.8 seconds. He definitely lost out a little bit there, and he comes out with Gasly. This is somebody that he is going to be racing against, there's no doubt about it.
Gasly's made 2 pit stops as well. Qualified in the top 10, is still racing there.
And we've had track limits at turn 4.
So turn 4 track limits is come up as an alert as Kevin Magnussen tries to fend off Pierre Gasly, but Gasly's on tyres that are working already, and he goes round the outside. Lovely move from the French driver Pierre Gasly in the Alfa Tauri, and that could be vital for the final result, final points for the teams here. Haas is still going well with Kevin Magnussen, but that little bit of time loss in the pits, I think, has cost him the position.
Yeah, has Gasly. Beautiful move around the outside then at turn 4. I was just thinking that was going to be a crash with Magnussen trying to hold on the inside on tyres that are not quite up to temperature, and you could see it with the slide that Kevin had coming out at turn 10. He can open the DRS though, and if he can stay close to Gasly through these few corners, he's going to have a run back at taking the position on the main straight.
I noticed on his dashboard it came up with push. Has he gone to some sort of push mode, do you think? That they said you can go to the push mode and you can try and overtake. You've got a lap in which to maybe have a go at this.
I think it might be a bit of energy deployment. You can just deploy a load of energy from your electrical motor on the car and basically get a bit more speed, 160 more horsepower, just deploy that on the main straight. Gasly, of course, would be doing the same thing to defend in the Alfa Tauri if he hasn't used it all on the last lap to make the move.
So is he just within DRS range? I think he is, but I'm not sure he's going to be close enough. Let's see as they come down. He's got DRS, he's got a slipstream, he's got to be going around the outside because Gasly's defending. There's a little lock-up from Kevin. Oh, and he just makes it into turn 1. But again, that's not ideal. You don't want to be flat-spotting your tyres at this stage of the race, but he's got a great run on exit.
Yeah, he's going to have another big chance here. He's got the straight line speed with the DRS. Can he sweep around the outside and do the exact role reversal? Yes, he can. Nice move there. Good fighting between the two over a lap.
And again, it's showing us that these new cars are allowing overtaking perhaps more than we have seen in recent years, which is absolutely the target of Formula One's technical regulations of this year. So Kevin Magnussen got himself back into 9th, and he should be able to move up, bearing in mind there are a couple of people ahead of him who are likely to still need to make pit stops. Another look at this.
This is the lockup that he has initially. So Gasly goes to the middle of the road. K-Mag goes to the outside, and then it's only a small lockup, to be fair, right at the end of braking as he tries to turn in. Big slide from Gasly. He knew getting on the throttle early was going to be crucial to defend here, but he got on it too early, and that basically gave up the position. He was then slow on this straight, and Magnussen comes through and takes 9th position away from him. But there's 2 Alfa Romeos ahead who have finally got some clear air, Bottas and Joe. Joe's only 4 seconds behind his teammate as well, doing a great job. And they're going to have to pit. So that's going to be 7th place in the end for Kevin Magnussen, if he can just keep the laps going.
Yeah, impressive stuff indeed. Yes, he is only just behind Guan Yu Zhou at the moment. So our race leader is Charles Leclerc with a gap of now 2.5 seconds. And here we go. Yes, there's Kevin Magnussen going past Zhou. So that brings him up into 8th. place. 7th, in fact, because Bottas has just pitted. All right, so he's got past Valtteri at the same time, effectively, because Bottas came into the pits. So back into 7th. That's where we saw Kevin earlier. This is really his target for this race, to be best of the rest, and that's where he is again. He's behind 2 Ferraris, 2 Red Bulls and 2 Mercedes, but ahead of everybody else.
And look in the background, the 2 Alpines are back together as well. Alonso took that early pit stop, Ocon carried on, and now they can carry on their battle.
It's been quite a close battle between them so far, hasn't it? Let's see how that works its way out, even with Ocon getting that 5-second penalty earlier on. Pierre Gasly still on target to score some points. He's always had good results here, actually, in Bahrain, although he was unlucky with a mechanical problem last year. Let's just see, what was this? So this was as Leclerc... No, sorry, Sainz came round.
Oh my God, that guy nearly crashed into me.
I tell you what this will remind him of. He had a crash with Lance Stroll a few years ago when the two of them went. I think it was Stroll who came out of the pits. They actually crashed down.
Oh, he drilled into the side of him, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think that must have been a real reminder for him.
Yeah, that was 2017. I was in that race.
Right,
And Stroll came... You're quite unsighted when you come all the way from the right-hand side. And Stroll, I think he just locked up and went into the Toro Rosso that was Sainz at the time, if I'm not mistaken. That was the old Gutierrez Maldonado flip as well from 2014. It's very wide, the circuit there, and when you come out the pits, you don't see the cars in your mirrors. You need to be told over the radio because they're right over to the left, you're right over to the right, and so you can get yourself caught out, particularly if your tyres are a little bit cooler this year and you don't quite have the optimum grip.
Well, you said the 2 Alpines were close, and Ocon's now got the drag. He's got the DRS system, and he's going to slip past his teammate Fernando Alonso and move up into 9th position. Both Alpines just in the points, but not terribly comfortably, because you've got Tsunoda a couple of seconds behind, and Bottas, who's only just switched onto a fresh set of tyres in the Alfa Romeo, potentially might have the pace to catch up to these guys. We'll have to wait and see. But Alonso definitely seems to be not quite in the same zone as his teammate.
He pitted early as well. He's got a long way to go on his hard tyres to get to the end, and he's on the fringes of the points already. So it's going to be probably a rearguard action now for Fernando Alonso to get some points for Alpine. Ocon's been the stronger today. Wasn't as quick through most of the weekend, but on race day he's been good, and this was a fairly straightforward pass once again on his teammate. Fernando not fighting too hard, probably knew the game was up by the time Ocon had been right behind him in the last stint. Alonso pitted earlier, had the fresh tyres for a little bit, and then Ocon's right back behind him. If Alonso's got to manage his tyres, he doesn't want to be fighting with his teammate for too long.
There's certainly some confidence amongst a couple of the teams, particularly AlphaTauri and Red Bull, that this soft tyre can do a good long stint on a lighter car now that they've burnt a bit more fuel. Which is an interesting angle. There's Zhou, who's just got past Lance Stroll. So Bottas now 12th, Zhou is 13th, Stroll 14th, and Mick Schumacher in 15th. And Yuki Tsunoda, for example, who's currently running in 11th, he's already done 8 laps on the soft tyre, and we've still got plenty more to go. 18 laps still to go in this race. I wonder if he is going to be able to take them all the way to the checkered flag. Something we're all learning about the durability of these tyres, and certainly the hard compound tyre, which Mercedes went for. It doesn't seem to be working quite so effectively. Mind you, got a few cars out on it now. We'll see how that works. Into the pits comes Lance Stroll then. And it isn't a great day for Aston Martin so far, is it?
It was always going to be tough for Nico Hülkenberg, filling in at the last moment. Did a great job out qualifying Stroll yesterday, but the race is just harder when you've not been in the car for such a long period of time. And to make matters worse, Stroll finding anti-stall and not getting away either. Slow pit stop and then a slow release as well from Lance Stroll. So often when things go wrong, you lose everything. The pit stops are a little bit off. Your procedures are a little bit off because you lose that sharpness. If you're fighting for a win, everyone is honed in. The mechanics, the strategists, everyone is razor sharp. But when you're having a bad weekend, things get a little bit sloppy, and that looked just the definition of that.
Now he's warming those tyres up. Meanwhile, up front, no change between the top two. Something to keep an eye on, though, is the battle between Sainz and Perez. The gap between them is now 2 seconds. So Perez still not quite within DRS range, but I'm sure that he'll be told by the team, look after these tyres, just stay there. Don't try and get Sainz yet. Wait until the latter stages of this race. And I'll tell you, Perez is in a really good position at the moment to perhaps attack for that third place later on.
Alonso struggling big time right now. very, very slow on these hard tyres. Has he chewed through them already? Here comes Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, the Japanese driver moves to the inside, and it's a very straightforward pass, and you wouldn't expect that, would you, up against double world champion Fernando Alonso, but as you say, he's definitely struggling.
He's 3 seconds a lap slower than Bottas, approaching on his medium tyres as well. Tsunoda's still probably got to get his elbows out to defend from Bottas. There's the Alfa Romeo in the background, and Alonso now drops out of the points. Started in the top 10, but just hasn't had the pace, hasn't had the tyre life today.
It's going to be a bit of a blow for Fernando Alonso, this, Julian, because as a double world champion, you know, and he was out of Formula One for a few seasons, got the opportunity to come back in, and it was a time when Renault, as it was, but now Alpine, really felt that they were going to build up for this particular era of the new designs. But the initial take on this is they're not quite there, really, are they? So is this going to keep Alonso motivated?
This won't. Being overtaken by midfield drivers. At least one thing Fernando loves is the fight, but he couldn't even fight there on his used hard tyres. He's going around so slowly at the moment with no grip. The car's okay. He made Q3 yesterday, but he's not there to qualify 8th. He's there. He's back to try and fight for the championship. So many teams pin their hopes on the regulation changes. It's not just Alpine. It's the likes of Aston Martin as well, who look like they haven't got it right just yet. McLaren, who look like they are not at the races just yet either. They've got star drivers as well. Sebastian Vettel's not racing today, but will be back. Daniel Ricciardo, an 8-time Grand Prix winner, is running around in 18th position at the moment. And Lando Norris, who should have been a Grand Prix winner, so nearly was a Grand Prix winner already, is in 15th. They're big-name drivers that would have been hoping this season they'd be fighting for the win with Leclerc and Verstappen, and they are at the exact opposite end of the grid.
Absolutely right. That's a bit of a shocker. But what we are hoping this year is that the overall balance between the grid will be much closer. So you might have a good weekend at sometimes and a poor weekend at others. So you can move from a good point scoring position down towards the back. What it does look like, though, is that certainly Ferrari and Red Bull are in a different league to everyone else. Mercedes are a bit off them, probably have the potential to catch up. But then there is that gap again that we have seen in the past between the top 3 teams and the rest. And I think we're going to see a lot of adjustment through the rest of the field.
And you know something, with 15 laps to go, I don't think there's a single driver in the top 10 that can take a free pit stop for a fastest lap attempt. They're so evenly spread out. The Leclerc-Verstappen duo has a good chunk of time to Carlos Sainz, but nowhere near a pit stop just yet. And they're, of course, fighting each other for the win, but Verstappen can't drop back. Perez has Hamilton not all that far behind him as well. And the Mercedes have got Kevin Magnussen not too far behind him. So it does show the gaps through the field are still close enough. Yeah. But I guess it's Mercedes dropping back, really, that splinters that out, the front to the midfield.
Yes, now that Hamilton's on the medium compound tyre, he's doing some reasonable lap times, 37.9 last time around, Russell 37.7, but it's still nothing as quick as the leaders. Leclerc 37.0, Verstappen 37.2. So Mercedes at this stage of the race are still in a very different position to the top teams, and they're going to have to do a lot of work. They've got a race next weekend, and that's the thing. Once your season starts, it all starts being thrown at you very, very quickly. And we'll see how that goes. Alonso having a lap time deleted, by the way, for running over track limits at turn 4. We haven't seen too many problems with track limits so far today, have we?
No, they've been fairly respectful. Just that one message from Pete Bonington to Lewis Hamilton earlier on as well. Alonso's been passed now by Valtteri Bottas, and now Bottas just a couple of seconds away from Yuki Tsunoda once again. They had a big fight earlier on, and they're going to be duking it out shortly for that final point.
Yeah, and it might work in favour of Bottas because he's on the medium compound tyre, which is relatively fresh. So Norris is back in, and he's gone for a set of soft compound tyres. So he has gone for a 2-stop race. We did wonder at one stage whether he might just keep it a 1-stop, but no, he's gone for the 2-stop, and this will drop him back down the order once again. It's going to bring him out behind Hülkenberg, so it actually brings him out in last position.
And how the tables have turned. 5.5 second pit stop for Lando Norris. It doesn't rain, but it pours sometimes. And who's the man that's going to lap him in a minute? George Russell.
And we have less deck than Verstappen.
Oh, that must feel so good to hear in your earphones. What it means, just to explain, is that the team are telling Charles Leclerc that his tyres are actually in better shape than his main rival, Max Verstappen, behind him, who's now, Jolyon, dropped to 5 seconds behind him.
Is the game up for the win? Verstappen is not had the pace at the moment, and Leclerc just stroking the Ferrari away to a 5-second lead. And in fact, Max Verstappen has just come into the pits.
Well, maybe they are going to go for that fastest lap, then the point for fastest lap. If they can't get second place, then maybe that's what they're going to do. But this is surely going to drop him down behind Sainz, isn't it?
Yeah, they've ensured he's got some overtaking to do in the last 13 laps. Perez also pits, though.
Okay, so both Red Bulls making a pit stop. But I reckon that what they are all learning is overtaking is more achievable on this spec of car than it has been in the past. So you can perhaps risk another pit stop and still make those moves.
Okay, so here's the question. Do Ferrari cover them or not this time? 5 seconds Leclerc had over Verstappen. He can cover Max. I can't see Verstappen finding 5 seconds as an undercut here. But does he need to? The gap right now is going to be... it's nearly 30 seconds in 13 laps. Surely there's not enough pace there.
Mate, my steering wheel is suddenly very heavy. Oh my god, someone's locked.
I couldn't really catch that.
Steering has suddenly gone very heavy.
Oh.
It's almost locked.
Wow. Oh. Can you see anything from on board there, Jolyon?
Well, he's turned it in and it looks okay. And there's nothing coming up on the dash, but giving it a little bit of a weave and a feel. Is it the sign of a hydraulic issue? Sometimes the power steering is the first thing to go for Verstappen, but he's going through the gears cleanly.
Yeah, hydraulics look after gears and steering, don't they? So they both go at the same time. We think that Sainz may be coming in here. Let's see if Ferrari responding.
I almost got here.
Let me know if you need to box, Max.
No, just tell me what's wrong. I'll try to handle it.
Oh, it's not going well for Max at the moment. Carlos is into the pits. Charles Leclerc stays out there. Ferrari responding. They're going to put him onto a set of the soft tyres. But you can see the Red Bull guys are ready in the background there, Jolyon.
Well, Verstappen has done the fastest final sector of the Grand Prix so far. So maybe he's not comfortable, but he's fine on pace. So no need to massively worry unless it's something that deteriorates. 26.5 seconds to try and gain. But I think they're just giving Ferrari a question, aren't they?
A 4-second pit stop for Lewis Hamilton this time, my goodness. So that's going to have cost him some time as well. Is he going to be able to safely get back into 5th place? He's now dropped behind his teammate. So George Russell is now into 5th. He will come out ahead of Kevin Magnussen. You can see Kevin on the right-hand side of the shot there as he re-enters the track. So he comes back in 6th place behind his teammate. Now let's go back with Verstappen.
So Ferrari didn't pit Leclerc, and Verstappen was 7/10 quicker than Leclerc in the first sector on this lap. He's just done a very quick final sector. So I think Ferrari have missed the moment if they wanted to pit Leclerc and come out safely in front. It'll be tight if they pitted him this lap. Are they going to? Leclerc's coming past now and he's not pitted. So Leclerc's going to the end, and they've just now got to hope that Verstappen doesn't manage a huge amount of pace.
Max, is the wheel heavy in both directions, so both left hand and right hand?
Everywhere. It's not even smooth. Like not even on the straight.
Pierre Gasly has jumped out of his car. There's a fire at the back of the Alfa Tauri. Marshall's getting to it very, very quickly. This could lead to a safety car. And if it's a safety car, this is going to be tough for Ferrari. Although if they can stop under safety car, perhaps they can get something out of it.
Yeah, it'd be fine for Ferrari because everyone suddenly has to go slowly. Gasly's out of the car and Marshall's hosing it down quickly, putting out quite a big fire then coming from the power unit. And it is a virtual safety car for now. Leclerc has the chance to pit, put on the fresh tyres and come out in front.
It's gone to full safety car. Look, I think it's just, yes, it's gone to full safety car. So with full safety car, you don't have to keep the gap, do you?
No, you still do. You still do for a couple of laps. So there's a delta that means that you have to go at a sensible pace, as Leclerc is doing right now. And just as a safety precaution until all the cars are in a safe zone, basically. So for a couple of laps they have to follow the delta. Leclerc can still pit and he'll come out in the lead of the race.
And you gain, if you can make your stop under safety car, you will gain an advantage against people you're racing against. I wonder if this will bring... No, Russell will still come out behind Hamilton. Just looking at where he's exiting. Poor Pierre Gasly. So first retirement of the 2022 season has gone to the Alfa Tauri team, to Pierre Gasly. Fastest in free practice, 1 on Friday. Sadly, the rest of the weekend has not gone according to plan. Let's see if we can spot what happened here. I mean, it's a mechanical issue, obviously.
Yeah, I think we might hear it. Or lack of it. Total switch down then. Dash has gone. Full-on power failure for Gasly. And off he goes. Sadly, the first retirement, the only retirement so far in the race. No points for him. And Yuki Tsunoda was in the points and he's taken a pit stop now, so that might have dropped him. I think the Alfa Romeos are also pitting at the moment, but Tsunoda then taking the chance to pit.
Leclerc has made his pit stop, 2.8 seconds. I can tell you he will be coming out ahead of Verstappen under safety car. It won't change it hugely, but it will stack them all back together. When the safety car releases, they will all be put back together again. So here we are, almost like the end of last year, where the end of the race could come down to a real battle between the two fastest guys, Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen, after the safety car is brought back in.
Car still trackside from Gasly.
Just keep checking what it can be, if something is stuck or whatever.
Yeah, copy.
There's obviously still a bit of an issue for Verstappen, but he is still lapping fast, or was before safety car. So hopefully they can still be in this battle for the race victory.
Well, on the one hand, this is bad news for Leclerc because it looked like he had the race in the bag. Ferrari have dealt with Red Bull at 2 pit stops. They didn't feel the need to pit on the latest one, and they had this in the bag. So now they're going to have Verstappen right behind Charles Leclerc for the race lead when we get a restart in some laps' time. But on the other hand, it could be bad for Verstappen because if he's got some steering issues, he's not comfortable with the car, he's then going to have Carlos Sainz and his teammate Sergio Perez right behind him. So if he's not happy with it and starts making mistakes or just can't get the pace, it might make him more vulnerable in his second position.
Well, we shall get to see fairly soon. Lapped cars being allowed past the safety car. That was an issue that came up in Abu Dhabi at the end of last year. Magnussen also making a pit stop, and a lot of teams have gone for an extra pit stop now because of the safety car. And Magnussen still hoping to hold on to that all-important 7th position. Try and stay ahead of Valtteri Bottas. He will be ahead of him still as they come back out onto the circuit, and he'll be on a fresh set of tyres. So we have a lot of drivers on fresh tyres, and they will all be stacked up once the safety car takes full control of this. Now we have this new safety car on track this year, and as you'll notice, it's got lots of flashing lights on it, but unlike the past where it has a big barrier across the roof which carries the lights have now all been installed internally. Let's listen into Verstappen.
Okay, Max, so steering update. We are staying out. We don't believe it's a reliability concern at this stage. We can go through it a bit later.
We can go through it a bit later. I wonder what that means. But I suppose he means we'll talk about what's going on.
They don't want to declare it over the team radio where everyone else can listen in and know what's up with the Red Bull car. So frustrating for the driver. Sometimes you do just want to know what on earth is the problem, but sometimes you just got to keep it simple. Don't give your hand away. He was able to get some pace out of the car.
Come on, the safety car needs to go quicker in the straight. It gives him a big disadvantage by going slow like this.
Copy that.
Well, maybe they'll try and tell race control, but there are much more limits now on whether teams can actually, what they can say to race control. That's all changed since the end of last year when the controversies of Abu Dhabi certainly came to the headlines everywhere. So this was Leclerc behind the safety car down the straight. Look, he had to brake pretty hard.
I think he nearly called himself out and drove towards the safety car then, trying to put some energy through the tyres, accelerating, weaving, braking, everything you can do from the cockpit to just put the energy into the tyres. Now it's all about getting them up to temperature. Forget about any degradation now. It's going to be a short blast to the finish. You've got to make sure you have the temperature in the tyres so when the safety car comes in, you're not going to lock up at the final corner, at the first corner. You're not going to oversteer at the final corner as you try and put the power down.
So you're riding on board with Charles Leclerc. This is his helmet camera, which is giving us a lovely view behind the safety car. And see how he's working the steering wheel side to side, keeping those tyres up to temperature. Behind, you've got Carlos Sainz in third. He's going to have a big battle with Perez. And then you've got Hamilton. So Hamilton, you know, is he going to be in the mix a little bit? He's on the soft tyre now. So everybody will be bunched up and he'll be looking for any potential opportunities.
He was racy at the start, wasn't he, Lewis? Got ahead of Sergio Perez on lap 1.
Still haven't got the Alfa Tauri out the way, though, so we're going to have that safety car out for a little bit longer yet.
This could be a problem. The car, the marshals don't want to touch it because the car is deemed not safe with the electrical charge going through it. So no one can touch the car, which means, needless to say, it's very difficult to move it off the circuit and put it into a safe place. So how long is that going to be the case? It's a similar thing as what happened in Zandvoort last year in free practice, when Sebastian Vettel had a stricken car early on, and it took an awfully long time to clear. I think it was about 20 minutes. That's going to really run the clock down if that's the case, and run through the laps.
Well, there were the marshals doing a great job of trying to put the fire out. And of course, now that there are budget limitations on the teams, your running budget is controlled nowadays. You don't want stuff like this going on, because there's a lot of repair work and replacement work that is going to be done to that poor Alfa Tauri. It runs with the Red Bull Honda engine.
They are now clearing it, are they?
I think they're beginning to move it now, so hopefully it will be out of the way. This is the first time that the engines in the Red Bulls and Alfa Tauri have run under the Red Bull powertrain name. It is still the Honda engine effectively that was used to win the championship last year. It is still built in Japan, but Red Bull have taken over the ownership of those engines, and so it is now under their name. But it's a little bit of a worry for Red Bull.
Yeah, it's more difficult to steer with speed.
Copy that, Max.
It is a worry for him, and especially if he's going to try and be battling for the win if the steering is getting heavier and heavier. Remember, they do use power steering in Formula 1 cars. It's very clever technical power steering, so they get amazing feel. Lapped cars may now overtake the safety car, so we're going to get all of the lapped cars. This is not going to be an Abu Dhabi situation from last year, where some were allowed to go past the safety car and others were not. We've got the time, and so it's not causing the same levels of tension. And this is still round 1 of the championship. There's a few cars still to come through. Latifi there in the Williams. He's running down in 18th place. He's followed by Nico Hülkenberg. And Pierre Gasly is in fact the very last, although I think he has already gone around on the lap.
I think Verstappen's got a real job on his hands here.
Okay, so he stopped, of course.
As from what we can see, the situation is stable, so nothing's getting worse. But yeah, it is what it is. You may have to live with it. If it becomes undrivable, then obviously you know the situation.
You don't think they're just trying to wind up Ferrari into thinking, oh, this will be easy, and actually it's going to go on the attack?
He's agitated. He will go on the attack.
Yeah.
Max Verstappen will always go on the attack given any level of chance, but he's agitated, and even before he was sitting right behind Leclerc's Ferrari, he was radioing saying not happy with the steering. And it's twofold. Firstly, reliability is a concern. If it's not getting worse, and Red Bull can see that from the data, then that's great news. At least Max can get his head around it. You don't have that concern in the back of your mind. But even from parking the reliability part, you've got the performance side, and the driver feels so much through the steering wheel. You have the power steering honed into your personal preference. If you're suddenly getting steering that's heavy or changeable, it gives you a whole different sensation behind the wheel, and trying to pick your braking point, trying to detect your oversteer or understeer. You feel a lot through your body, but it's just maybe going to sort of cause some more just small errors and inconsistencies in Max's driving.
So the safety car is going to be coming in this lap. There will be 7 laps to go to fight out for the first win of 2022. Charles Leclerc, who has led pretty much all of this race. Yes, Max Verstappen has got in front of him a couple of times, but Leclerc has fundamentally controlled this race. But he's going to have a battle on his hands now, because they're all on fresh tyres. Verstappen has got some sort of slight problem with the steering, but it will not stop him having a go at trying to get past the Ferrari. Tyre temperature will be key going down into turn 1, Jolien.
Absolutely. It's all about making sure you can hit the brakes with the right pressure, so you're not braking early, you're not braking softly, and you're not going to be vulnerable under attack from a driver that's already sent it down the inside at turn 1 3 times.
So, how are you going to judge it? Charles Leclerc, what a position he's in. A man who led so much of this race back in 2019, ended up finishing in 3rd place. That was due to mechanical problems. He's led so much in 2022. Is he going to end up staying in front, or will he drop back? We're going to find out fairly soon into the final stages. The pace car, the safety car rather, is heading down towards the pit lane. It is now up to Charles Leclerc as to when to go for it. And Max will try and chase him. Trying to position the car as close to the Ferrari as he possibly can. Charles is going to leave it to the last moment. Waiting. And away goes Charles. Accelerates well out of the final corner. That was a nice move from Charles. And now defending. Now, DRS will not be open initially. And in fact, it's not a great getaway from Verstappen. He's under pressure with Carlos Sainz in the other Ferrari. So Sainz has got an opportunity. Going down the outside into turn 1. Verstappen has the inside line. Sainz can't do it. And Perez is now going to try and join in. And Hamilton's right there too. But no change up front. Charles Leclerc is still the race leader. And Max Verstappen is the one who's having to work hard to defend his place. Sainz is still on the attack.
Showing a nose into 4, but not close enough to make the move. No DRS available, and he really needed some there. Carlos Sainz for a bit of extra speed. Verstappen picked the inside line into turn 1 and defended it, but he had a poor restart. Really poor restart from Verstappen. Leclerc controlled it perfectly, came from the outside into the final corner, opened up the exit, and just drilled it towards the line. Verstappen was coming more from the middle of the road. He tightened the corner unnecessarily. I think he was trying to distract Charles from being able to pick an apex, but Leclerc just gunned it, turned in, and Max had that tighter final corner, washed with understeer, and he's done well in the end just to keep 2nd place.
Hamilton, Russell being chased by Kevin Magnussen, then Bottas. Mick Schumacher making a bit of a move there with Fernando Alonso. Mick is already in 11th place. And then Zhou Guanyu, the Chinese driver, trying to get into the mix as well. Can he possibly get into the points? I think that's going to be a bit of a tough one. Tsunoda is in 10th, the final points-paying position right now. Alonso is in 11th position.
He's pitted for new tyres as well. This is the sort of time where Alonso can come alive right at the death. The other big winner there was Valtteri Bottas, who pitted under the safety car and has jumped up to 8th position. So he's managed to basically make it back to where he qualified by hook or by crook.
So Charles Leclerc is leading by a 2.5 seconds from Verstappen, Sainz, and then Perez still under attack from Hamilton. There's Russell. Magnussen being chased by Bottas, then Ocon on Tsunoda as down the inside Joel trying to battle with Mick Schumacher once again. Schumacher though gets in front, so Mick Schumacher into that 12th place. Joe 13th. Still these two really having a great dice, these ex-Formula 2 racers.
Schumacher tumbling down the order actually. He was in 10th because he didn't pit under the safety car, but now he's paying the price for that little bit of track position, and he's been passed by Tsunoda, passed by Alonso, and now Joe is right behind him as well. So there's differing strategies further back, but most of them pitted, and it was Valtteri Bottas who gained the most by pitting under that safety car and jumped the whole rest of the midfield, apart from Kevin Magnussen.
On board with Sainz. I'll tell you what, the pace of Charles Leclerc is impressive. You do wonder if this steering issue for Verstappen is costing him here, because he's definitely struggling. They're on similar tyre life. Okay, Leclerc's are 3 laps younger than Verstappen's, but even so, I'm surprised to see Verstappen struggling a bit more when we saw him fight so hard earlier, and it may just be that mechanical issue that he's been talking to the team about. So what he's got to do now is try and protect that 2nd position from Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, I think it's just about defence now for Verstappen. Trying to drive around with a car that's not honed perfectly to what you want is always going to be compromising. He had the pace earlier on that was a match for Charles Leclerc. I mean, the racing said it all really earlier on, and maybe Leclerc had a 1/10 in it after that, but they were neck and neck. Now it doesn't look like Verstappen has much to fight with Leclerc for the win. And it's just one of those things. He spent 3 hours of practice fine-tuning everything, and if something just goes slightly out, particularly something as major as the steering, the weight of the steering, it can just be massively disconcerting for the driver. But he's able to keep a decent pace, and Sainz isn't crawling all over the back of him anymore.
I'll tell you what's encouraging on a restart like this. Okay, we haven't seen many big overtakes, but the way the field doesn't spread out instantly like it kind of used to, as we saw before. This was with Joe just a second ago, with Mick Schumacher.
he made it through there with the DRS, without the DRS even, just with the tyre grip coming into turn 11. DRS still not activated, although it will be enabled this time around. And there are many drivers just around the 1 second margin. Carlos Sainz is on the edge of it in the Ferrari.
Yeah, that's right. And Hamilton is just within a second of Perez. And then you've got the Magnussen-Bottas battle. Now that one, for me, is quite intriguing. You're going to have the Haas versus the Alfa Romeo for the best of the rest behind Ferrari, Red Bull and Mercedes. That could be quite close between Kevin Magnussen and Valtteri Bottas going into the last couple of laps. Ocon is still in 9th place in the Alpine, not such a surprise. And then 10th place for Tsunoda. Actually, Tsunoda is just within a second of him. And then you've got Alonso just outside the top 10. Doesn't look as though Alonso's going to score any points here today unless we see some more dramas. Leclerc is in control. Sainz not quite close enough to Verstappen to attack.
He'll have DRS on the next straight though. Just a little dart in the mirrors of Verstappen into turn 1. Now he's got to get the exit. Swings it through turn 2, accelerating, trying to balance the rear end, make sure you're not sliding too much and losing speed, and he'll get a run there up to turn 4 with the DRS. Not close enough, but here's now. Problem is, you can't really overtake through this next sequence of corners. It's much harder here, but Verstappen doesn't have great pace.
No, not the pace that we were expecting, not the pace he seemed to have earlier on in the race. Meanwhile, Hamilton is keeping Perez under pressure.
What's going on with the battery?
Battery fine.
No, it's not. I have no real... What the f*** is this?
Oh, it's not going well for him, is it?
He's in big trouble. He was so wide at turn 8, couldn't turn the car in, and now Sainz has got DRS into turn 11, and the pace that Verstappen's going, this could be a chance.
I tell you what, I'm also noticing, well, he's got a chance. Sainz is down the inside. He's going to go for second place. The Ferrari is going 1-2 at the moment. Charles Leclerc leads. Sainz into second place. What a start to the season this could be for Ferrari. Verstappen down to 3rd.
We can see the issue, Max. It's not battery related.
What do you want me to do?
There's not a lot we can do.
He's in trouble. Oh, and he's slowing right down, and he's lost even 3rd and 4th. Hamilton goes past. Russell goes past. It looks like Max Verstappen is going to retire from the first Grand Prix of 2022. The reigning world champion. What a horrible start to the season for him.
Try to make it into the pit lane, please, Max.
Well, my goodness, you can hear the crowd reacting in the background. I tell you what, Hamilton's still putting Perez under pressure for a podium.
There's a podium on here for Lewis Hamilton out of absolutely nowhere. Heartbreak for Max Verstappen. What a race he's driven, but so close to the end and it's gone wrong. And, well, it must have been deteriorating, the problem.
5 DNFs he's had here at Bahrain in 9 starts. Would you believe it? It has not always been his lucky track. That does include the Sakir circuit version, but what a time to have a non-finish when you were pushing hard for the win and all indeed settled for second.
Yeah, you could see it on the last lap. He's certainly struggled to get any level of turn into to turn 8 and just couldn't steer the car where he wanted, then didn't have any level of energy available to defend into turn 11, and he had no straight line speed, so Sainz with the DRS came straight through. This was easier than it should have been for Carlos, and really they're just lacking straight line speed in the end. Verstappen lacking control, and then it all went kaput just 2 corners later.
I noticed the red lights are flashing, showing that it hasn't got electrical power, and it's showing that somewhere else, so I think there's a connection there somewhere.
Well, that's what he said. That's the lack of energy, really, the lack of electrical power there, and the red light blinking, kind of like you're harvesting energy, but there was nothing more coming for him.
I'm losing power.
We've got 2 laps to go.
Uh-oh. Is Perez in the same shape? Watch for the red lights on the back of his car, or is it something else that's going on? Here's Hamilton with a good toe. DRS in operation. Can he attack down into the first corner? Not close enough. Not close enough. Perez holding on to 3rd for the moment. Only we just got a couple of laps to go.
2 laps to go. You've got this. Elbows out.
Elbows out, they say. And we know that Perez could put his elbows out. Remember what he did in Abu Dhabi to help Max Verstappen last year.
Holding back Lewis Hamilton. Only Lewis Hamilton's not thinking championship just yet. He's thinking podium. Out of nowhere. He's had such a quiet race, Lewis. Fighting mediocrely with his teammate that he's had under control behind him the whole way in 5th position. Suddenly the Mercedes out of nowhere are looking at a podium. The Ferraris have got 1-2 locked up now. Leclerc 5 seconds ahead of Sainz. That should be done. But Perez with another ailing Red Bull has got to somehow keep Hamilton behind him.
Hamilton will be loving this. This is just his thing, to have a chance in the closing stages of the race. But it is hard there. Red Bull looking good there.
He's only really got one major attempt left, unless something goes more wrong with Perez's car, and that's into turn 1 on the next lap. Onto the final lap it'll be. That's the big area. At least make Perez defend at turn 1, and you can have a bit of a run up to turn 4. As it is, Perez is just about looking like he's safe, but only just. Hamilton's within DRS range.
Let's have a look then. This is the key part of the track coming up now. We're going on to the final lap, and it's the exit of this corner. It's getting DRS, the drag reduction zone, and then attacking down into turn 1. Can it be done? We're about to find out. Leclerc is on target for victory, Sainz for second, but who's going to get third? Perez holding on to that third place at the moment from Lewis Hamilton. Russell is, spins! He spins! And Perez has lost it on the last lap. Oh my goodness, Red Bull, what a race this has turned into, with Verstappen retiring and Perez spinning on the last lap. Suddenly the team that Lewis going to dominate is out of it completely.
I cannot believe that was driver error for Perez. Hamilton wasn't putting him under that big pressure, turned it in, and the car's conked out.
I love the engine.
Yeah, it wasn't driver error. You just don't do that as a Formula 1 driver on the final lap in a podium position. The engine just cut out, locked the rears in a stall, basically, and he spun it. Heartbreak for Red Bull, no points at all. And they've been so good, and Verstappen so nearly won. Perez so nearly had a podium. They're going to get nothing.
My goodness, what a day it has been here in Bahrain. We weren't going to expect all of this. We knew Ferrari were strong, but we didn't know it was going to be like this. Charles Leclerc has effectively controlled this race after a huge battle with Max Verstappen in the early stages. He has driven perfectly. Charles Leclerc wins the opening Grand Prix of 2022. He wins in Bahrain, and it's a 1-2 for Ferrari for the first time since Singapore 2019. And the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, in a car that has not been as competitive, comes home in third, with luck falling into his hands for so many problems for Red Bull today at the end of the race. But Hamilton was there to pick up the pieces. Russell finishes in fourth. Magnussen, a brilliant fifth on his return with the Haas team. What a remarkable result that is. First points for the Haas team since the German Grand Prix of 2020. Bottas sixth for Alfa Romeo, then Ocon, Tsunoda, Alonso, and Zhou Guanyu, the Chinese driver on his debut, has scored a point. Well done to him. But the story's all about Ferrari.
Ferrari and Red Bull. Ferrari jubilation, they are back. They showed it through testing, they had the pace. Red Bull, power unit issues. Gasly with the same engine in there was on fire. 3 of the 4 having problems.
And P1.
Let's go! Let's go! Come on! That's exactly how we should start a season. Come on! 1-2, baby! 1-2! Yeah!
Sei un grande.
Volevamo lottare, Charles, hai lottato più di tutti, sei un campione, veramente, bravo, bravo, bravo.
Grazie Mattia, ragazzi, grazie davvero, siete dei grandi, siete veramente dei grandi. Mamma mia.
The third win of his career, the first since winning in Belgium and Italy in 2019. A 1-2 for the team. As I mentioned, he was actually second to Vettel in Singapore 19. That was the last time that Ferrari had a 1-2 finish. And it's also his 14th ever podium finish, which puts him now one ahead of 2 great Ferrari drivers, Gilles Villeneuve and Didier Pironi.
And boy, does he deserve this one. He's been the lead Ferrari driver all weekend. Sainz ran him close yesterday, but today it wasn't the case. It was Leclerc v Verstappen, and he was masterful in that defence for 3 maximum pressure laps that Verstappen came through at turn 1 every time. Leclerc came back at turn 4, judged it just about exquisitely to perfection, and that first win is so merited.
And P2, good job. 1-2, nice job. What a start of the season.
Bravi tutti, bravi. Forza Ferrari. A difficult weekend for me, but we will come back stronger. Let the bad weekends be P2. Bye.
Oh, Ferrari will be so happy. Talk about coming back more strongly, but I mean, what more could they have asked for here? Okay, they were lucky in a sense that Red Bull had such a bad time, and I do feel for Red Bull because they had such a good car. Both Perez and Verstappen drove really solid races here today, and we are certainly in for a great challenge. But what a result this is for Ferrari, for Formula One, after such a tough time over the last few years for this team. And for Leclerc, it's the first time he's taken a win here in Bahrain, his second podium added to 2019, which he should have won, but mechanical problems put him out. 7th time for Ferrari that they've won here, and that makes them most successful team winning in Bahrain, because they were tied with Mercedes coming into this event. Their first victory here since 2018. So well done. And it also means that he is leading the championship. It's the first time a Ferrari driver's led the championship since the middle of 2018, when Vettel was leading after the British Grand Prix. So we are seeing a complete shift thanks to the new technical regulations and the effort that Ferrari has put in.
It couldn't have gone better for them. The whole year so far, the pre-season test, getting the car in the window and then executing the first race with a 1-2. A 1-2 where Mercedes aren't at the races. Yes, Lewis Hamilton's done well to get third, but they are not going to challenge in the immediate future, it doesn't look. They were a long way adrift today. Red Bull, they will challenge. Max Verstappen will come back again. He's a relentless racer, but they've scored no points. They're 44 points away from Ferrari in the Constructors already. They're 26 points away from Leclerc, because Leclerc got the fastest lap. That's already a big gap that Ferrari have put to their closest challenger in terms of pace right now. And what further headaches lie ahead for Red Bull? 3 of those 4 Red Bull engines have had issues.
Yeah, I tell you what, something else just to mention though, George Russell, it's been a bit of a quiet race for George, but it's a good result for him, you know, finishing in 4th position. His best ever official finish is 2nd in the Belgian Grand Prix last year, but it wasn't on track as a race, so that is actually George Russell's best ever finish on the checkered flag.
He's in a Mercedes now, though.
Yeah, I know.
If
so
he
we
didn't achieve it other than that second, it might have been a little bit disappointing. But an accomplished drive from George Russell, trailing around Lewis Hamilton, but that's no mean feat against a 7-time world champ. And Mercedes will be happy with 3rd and 4th, a clean race. The pace wasn't good. The pit stops, to be honest, weren't very good, but they've got the result.
They have. And well done to Kevin Magnussen, who's matched his best ever finish here in the past with Haas. He's done it again. In fact, I think it's the 3rd time that the Haas team have had a 5th place finish here. But their last points were when he did it in 2018. So for Haas, that have had 0 points all through 2021, for them to get 5th place here today, brilliant achievement. Well done to Valtteri Bottas, 6th in his debut for Alfa Romeo. So we see the guys having a bit of a gathering there. Well done to Ocon, 7th. Tsunoda finishing in 8th, 1 place better than he did here last year. Alonso finally getting into the points, but of course these guys were helped by the retirement of the Red Bulls, and that brought Joe into the top 10 with both Perez and Verstappen going out.
What an exciting time for these guys. They know they can win a championship this year. 1st and 2nd at the first race, and a car that just looks so under control with them.
I wonder if it'll affect their relationship. They get on well, these two, but it always gets tough when you know you've got a winning car and you've got to beat your teammate. But let's go and hear from our top 3.
Charles, congratulations. Pole position, fastest lap, victory, driver of the day. What a dream start to the season.
Yeah, so happy. I mean, again, I keep repeating myself, but the last 2 years have been incredibly difficult for the team, and we knew this was going to be a big opportunity for the team, and the guys have done such an incredible job giving us and building this amazing car. So for now, it's starting in the best way possible. Pole position, victory, fastest lap, 1-2 today with Carlos. We couldn't hope for better. So thank you to all of you guys that kept supporting us in the past 2 years. It hasn't been easy, but it's incredible to be back at the top.
Now, Max had tremendous straight line speed down the pit straight to overtake you, and then you were very aggressively coming back at him. It was really exciting to watch.
Yeah, I was trying to be as clever as possible, using the DRS as much as possible. So I was trying to brake early in turn 1, just to be behind him at the DRS detection, and twice it worked out. So I took back my first position, and just incredibly happy that we made it work.
Did your heart sink a little bit when the safety car came out? We're thinking, not now.
I didn't want it now, but then I did a great restart, and yeah, that gave me a little bit of margin to then manage my race until the end.
Well done, congratulations again. We're just waiting for second place man Carlos Sainz. Carlos, congratulations, tenacious as ever, and you're rewarded with second place and a 1-2 for Ferrari.
Yeah, well, first of all, congrats to Charles, congrats to Ferrari. Ferrari's back and is properly back, no? With a 1-2 and where the team should have been all the last 2 years, but the hard work is paying off and we are there. For me, it's been a very tricky weekend. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have the pace today, but I managed to hold into there and bring the 1-2 for the team. Have some homework to do over these next few days, and I'm sure I'll come back stronger.
You're being quite hard on yourself, but when did you realise you might be getting past Max? Did you sense that he was driving a wounded car?
At the restarts, I had a strong chance because I had a very clean restart behind Charles and Max. He defended well, to be fair, and then suddenly I started seeing some flashing red lights on the back of his car, and I said, okay, this is my chance, no? And I went for it. He was unfortunate. I think today he was driving well enough to get P2, but yeah, I had a good run on him, and then he had to retire. So it's what it is, and it's good for Ferrari.
Well done. Congratulations again. Lewis, still you rise. You didn't have the ultimate pace today, but you still managed to get up on the podium.
Yeah, firstly, a big congratulations to Ferrari. So happy to see them doing well again, and they're such a historic, epic team. So it's great to see them. It's great to see Carlos and Charles up there as well. So congratulations to them. I think it was such a difficult race. We've struggled throughout practice. This is really the best result we could have got, and of course it was unfortunate for the other two drivers, but we did the best we could, and we're grateful for these points.
And have you got lots of new parts coming for this Mercedes W13 where you can get up there on that leading pace?
I'm hoping. I know the guys are working really hard back at the factory, and it's not going to be a quick turnaround, but I know that we all know as a team, I do feel like we've been the best unified team for so long. I know that we all know that just keep your head down, keep working. There's a long way to go.
A great damage limitation today, so you're going to go to bed satisfied tonight, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Hi to the crowd.
Well done.
Well, a pretty happy Lewis Hamilton getting a result that he really wasn't expecting here today. It was nice of him to say he felt for the Red Bull drivers going out the way they did, but as he said, the team did the work they needed to do. They had reliability, they didn't have the pace, but they did have the reliability that earned him in the end that podium finish. So yet another podium to add to the great tally over the years. In fact, it's the 250th point score for Lewis Hamilton in his career, and Mercedes didn't quite get the 125th win they were looking for in their 250th start, but nonetheless a podium I think is still a very strong result for them. But for Ferrari, well, it couldn't have been a better start, could it, with the way it all went? And to be fair, even the Red Bull's mechanical issues were not going to deny Charles Leclerc, I don't think. Okay, on that last restart, perhaps it did affect Max Verstappen, but we saw Leclerc beat Verstappen fair and square earlier on in this race when it was mighty close between them. And that's got to boost his confidence hugely, hasn't it?
He did the job. It was fantastic. He had the restart anyway. I think it was just the line and the way he controlled it, really. And he just got the jump on Max, whether Max had an issue at that point or not. And he controlled it. At great pace, good start, cut off the threat immediately, and then dealt with him when the threat just intensified in that window.
There's a lot of Ferrari about to come up because they are going to be so excited about what has been achieved here in Bahrain, and it's taken a while for them to earn their 239th team victory, but they are there now. Lewis Hamilton then finishing in third position, making up after Red Bull had their problems, and that's an important start to the season after a tough time for Mercedes. Finishing in second place, Carlos Sainz, his 7th ever podium finish, his first time he's achieved a podium finish here in Bahrain, his 141st Grand Prix, but a good result. But the winning man the winning team all round is Ferrari. It's Charles Leclerc who has taken victory here in round 1 at Bahrain. Celebrating the victory for Charles Leclerc and Ferrari here in Bahrain, and the trophies are to be handed out now, and you can see it's a rather beautiful trophy for Charles Leclerc for his first win at the Bahrain Grand Prix. A few years ago he was a bit disappointed to be standing up there in 3rd place after leading many laps. This time it has really come his way and he fully deserved the victory. 2nd place, and the Constructors' Championship battle as well, of course, going to Ferrari, but 2nd place to Carlos Sainz, and that means that Mattia Binotto has got a maximum points for Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. They're on 44 points ahead of Mercedes on 27. Haas are 3rd as a result of the great result from Kevin Magnussen. So a really perfect start for the Ferrari team. And it is Carlos who's now going to pick up that trophy for 2nd. Still to score a victory, of course, in Formula 1. But you've got to think, with a car this competitive, there's every chance that he could become another Spaniard to win in Formula 1. And there's his dad on the left, the World Rally Champion a couple of times, who is now celebrating his son's achievements. And Lewis Hamilton picks up 3rd place trophy. He's had plenty of podium finishes here in the past, but he wasn't really expecting it here today. It's actually his 11th podium finish here in Bahrain. He's had plenty of victories. In fact, he's won the last 3 in a row here. But today he's just as happy, I think, finishing in 3rd. Ferrari have started off the season in style with a 1-2 victory here in Bahrain. Red Bull have got a fantastic car, but it didn't quite last the full distance for either Max Verstappen or Sergio Perez. There's a lot of work to be done on their machine for the next weekend in Saudi, but for Ferrari, there's time for some celebration before travelling over the borders. happy, smiley faces, particularly there for Charles Leclerc, taking the victory and starting the season in style. Well, a remarkable first race of the season, and I think we saw a number of elements to it that really have encouraged us going forward. It was the racing wheel-to-wheel between Verstappen and Leclerc, which went both ways and still kept us entertained for several laps, that really promises a strong season. So let's take a look at the full result then of this first Grand Prix of the season. Charles Leclerc taking the victory from Carlos Sainz in second place and Lewis Hamilton in third position. George Russell finished in fourth place in only his second ever outing with Mercedes. He stood in, of course, for Lewis Hamilton at this track a couple of years ago, but he finished fourth today. Kevin Magnussen a brilliant fifth, and Valtteri Bottas getting Alfa Romeo's first top six finish since Brazil 19. Ocon was seventh for Alpine ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, Fernando Alonso and Zhou Guanyu, who has taken points on his debut in Formula One. The Chinese driver has got a point to his name. Mick Schumacher finished in 11th in the other Haas. Lance Stroll was 12th ahead of Alex Albon in the Williams. Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris, though, I'm afraid, 14th and 15th ahead of Latifi, Hülkenberg. And then we had three retirements right towards the end: Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly. So it is all happening already, and we've got another race coming up next weekend, so it's going to happen straight away. We've got on Friday first practice at 5 p.m. the local time, and practice 2 at 8 o'clock, through into Saturday with final practice and qualifying, and then the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix on Sunday at 8 o'clock local time. We will have full coverage here on F1 TV, and I do hope that you can join us to see how this season is going to develop. Will Ferrari have the same element of pace? Will Red Bull come back? We saw how fast Verstappen was there last year. Just didn't quite go right in qualifying when he spun in the last corner, but nonetheless, he will be very rapid. So thanks for joining us. It's been great fun being with you. Stick around for the post-race show from Ben Edwards. Goodbye.